live. Go ahead and introduce yourself to anybody. Well, most people in the Magic community know who you are, but anybody who doesn't know, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What is going on, everyone? My name is Reid Ferry. I am a magician, mentalist. Been doing it for a long time now, probably like over 15 years now since I was a little kid. And yeah, these days I'm doing a lot of different stuff, a lot of performing, and a lot of trying to help people out and teach and give back a little bit. And that's been like a big passion of mine lately that I've been really able to kind of explore and do. So I've been really loving that side of it, and it's something completely different. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Anytime,
It's
my
gonna be
man.
awesome.
So let me start off by asking what started your passion for magic? What got you into magic?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think my story is like all that unique or interesting, really. I kind of got into it from my grandfather showing me like a little card trick. I think he was doing the I can't even remember, but I think it was the think of a card, I'm gonna go behind my back, and then you reverse it, and you're like, oh, is it this one? They're like, no, and then you see it, that whole thing. I think that was the first card trick I ever saw, and I just kind
Oh, might have some
and
technical issues. You're back. Okay. I would just cut out for a second there.
we good?
Yeah.
Put my phone on the do not disturb because I think I got a call. Maybe that's why.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I'll put it on do not disturb. Okay. Yeah. So what did you hear last?
You were telling me that the trick that your grandfather showed you.
Yeah. So I
Um,
used to do that, and that kind of was the first time I remember seeing magic, and like he was by no means a magician, he was just showing me stuff. And then like I have early memories as a kid of like getting magic kits and stuff. I think my parents kind of saw like, oh, he's kind of into this, and magic kits were a little bit more popular back then. And so yeah, I kind of got into it that way and just kept the ball rolling, and eventually I really kind of got obsessed, got into it, and I started really diving into card magic mostly through YouTube. That's where I started learning for the most part. And then oh man, yeah, it's been a crazy journey. And then from there, like I feel like I got really proficient at cards and stuff. And then I kind of was like I want something else. I want to learn more. And so that's when I started looking into mentalism, and a big thing I try to do now is like find a way to merge the two of them, because I think a lot of mentalists, they abandon the cards once
Card of magic. Yeah, I agree.
mentalism. I just love cards too much, and there's a lot of ways that you can. A lot of what I've tried to like focus some of my work on is like finding the way to balance the two, right? And yeah, so that's kind of the origin story, man. It was all pretty much self-taught. I wasn't someone who was like super big into the community. I didn't know a lot of magicians. I didn't go to clubs until I really started kind of doing YouTube, and then I was like, oh, there's actually more clubs, more stuff. Like I was very much self-taught, just like doing my own thing for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Though there's definitely a lot of mentalists that kind of lean away from card magic, and card magic in itself. Spectators like it, but it's let's just be honest here. People love mentalism. I
Totally.
mean, they really go crazy for it.
Yeah, man. But like the thing is, though, like what I find is that I mean, it's all about structure. Like that's why like a lot of the videos that I make these days are I do a lot of theory videos. Like that was one thing that I felt like a lot of people are just like teaching card tricks and stuff, and I was like, I think theory is such an important part of it. And like
I 100% agree with you. Like your Dear Magicians section, like that. I watched that whole playlist. It's amazing.
better.
Right.
And it's like a series. I think I have my channel up here in case I wanted to answer anything. I have like 23 episodes or something.
Oh,
And we're
wow.
talking from everything from like things like how to approach, how to audience management, performance anxiety, to like how to effectively use recapping in your magic, and how to like um, use framing in different ways, and like all these like really theoretical things. And you know what, they don't get a whole lot of views relative to my other stuff, but that's fine. You know what I mean? Like for me,
They're important though. If you want to
it's so
learn not
important.
just how to, perform an effect, but you want to learn how to be a performer, those things are very important. Like you said, performance recapping, that is so
Hmm.
important how you can literally build an image in someone's head,
Yeah,
regardless
100%.
to what actually happened in reality. And
100%.
that is so strong. It really is.
Absolutely. And it's all about like those false memories and creating things for people to latch onto, you know what I'm saying? Like something that you can do in the performance purposely to call back to later when you're recapping. So there's like a concrete moment for them to anchor to, rather than just trying to convince them of something that didn't actually happen. You know, trying to think of an example of that. Like, if you're doing a trick where you shuffle the deck, and maybe uh, they just pick a card and whatever, and then when you're recapping before the final reveal, you try to say like, think about it, you cards, right? Like, do a lot of
Hey, all tangents welcome.
it comes to like this idea of stating the obvious. This is one of my more controversial magic takes, but I think it's so valuable. You know what? Maybe it's something we should chat about. I don't know if you want to jump into it now, but
Whatever
it's
you want. I'm freelance out here.
okay. Cool. So I mean, it's kind of related to what we're talking to. So stating the obvious. So what do I mean? So that is the idea. Magicians, you always hear. Don't say, you know, all right. So now I'm shuffling the deck,
Now,
and then I'm going to have
don't
you pick a
don't
card.
narrate
And
what you're doing.
I disagree, man.
It's
I
horrible.
disagree.
Oh, you do
I
really?
disagree. I
Okay,
disagree.
talk to
And
me.
let me explain why. And this is why I say it's my most. I have a whole video on it in my How to Make Your Magic Better series. So and the other thing you hear magicians say is they say you're never assume your audience is stupid. And I
Oh,
definitely agree. Our audience is not stupid, but they're also, you can be, I mean, stupid's not the right word, but it's just a lack of knowledge. But let's
right.
call it stupid
They're
just as
not
like a
knowledgeable about
simple,
the subject, right?
let's just call it stupid as like a simple word just to, but I'm not calling the person dumb. It's just they have no idea
Uninformed,
about
you could say. Yeah,
uninformed.
uninformed,
Perfect.
right?
Exactly. So they're uninformed in the topic and everything to it, right? Some people don't even know what the suits are. Like, and countless times I'll be like, name a suit, and they're like, suit, and I'm like, clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. I'm like, oh, okay. But just that
Pause
little
real
thing,
quick. Pause. How many times do you get clovers instead of clubs?
clovers instead of clubs. I had popcorn once, bro. I had popcorn.
Popcorn, really? Wow.
I
Okay,
think it's in a video. I think I
that's a
actually
new
got it.
one.
I think I got it on camera. The guy was like, the popcorn.
That's funny.
Like, I like that. Um, and so, you know, because people are so unfamiliar with a deck of cards, right? You really have to paint the picture for them. So let's say we're doing any card at any number, right? Everyone's favorite trick. You as a magician watching me do an any card at any number, you are going to understand what makes that trick so impressive. So if I just had you name a card and a number right now and I deal
Perfect
down and we
example.
find it, you're going to, you'll think, wow, that's awesome. But the deck wasn't shuffled. Must be in order. Like that's where your head's going to go. An audience member is not going to think that, right? And so that's basically the same thing. If I now do an ACAN where I shuffle and a true genuine shuffle, and you can tell it's that, and then I do it, well, you're going to be way more impressed than the other one because now it's a shuffled deck, any card, any number. Whereas the audience, they might not make that connection that this trick is much more impressive because of the shuffle. So it also ties into our recapping. When I now shuffle the deck, and people, you've been performing, people don't always pay attention to what you're doing too, right? So I'll be there shuffling the cards, and then I'm like, okay, let's start the trick. And they don't make the connection that there was any kind of shuffling going on, even if it's a false shuffle and I am keeping the
Right.
deck in stack, right? Like they they need to latch on to that as it being an important moment in the effect for two reasons. One, if I point that out, if I say, okay, watch, I'm going to give these cards a shuffle, and you don't have to be boring with it. You don't have to say, okay, I'm going to shuffle the cards. Now I'm going to do, just say, look,
Right.
I'm going to give these cards a good mix. And the reason this is important is because
Mention
every
it
time you shuffle a
casually.
deck, right, every time you shuffle a deck, it, puts it in a completely random order that, and they say it's never an order that's probably never been done in the history of the world. And that's why this is so impossible. So
It's a
now when
big
I'm
line in this.
recapping, right now when I'm recapping, I can call back to that moment. Remember, the deck was shuffled, and it's not just like me saying it and maybe they weren't even paying attention. I called out to it. I stated the obvious for them. I'm putting it on a platter for them to understand. And
Now I agree
because
too, because there's sometimes where I'll do like a Pharaoh shuffle, spread the cards out on the table, and have the spectator push them together. You know, the Wanta Marie stuff,
yeah,
or I'll do like a Rosetta shuffle or something like that. Just something where they can get their hands on the cards, and I believe that's a strong moment for them that to recall back on,
yeah,
even
stuff like
though it's
that.
a controlled situation.
Yeah, and but even like when you're controlling a card, they're like, "Oh, don't say, oh, I'm going to put your card back in the deck." Okay, but I think I need to say, "Okay, watch, you're find the ACAN plot so enticing." Yet so many of them say that it's not a good effect to perform for laymen, for spectators. Well, that's probably because of this whole understanding of what makes it so impossible.
The
Whereas to the
presentation,
spectator,
right?
it's just, okay, card at a number, okay, that's a cool chance trick. But if you can build the same reason, so take what you love about the trick and try to broadcast it into them or onto them so that when they watch it, they're watching it through the same lens as you. To kind of make those ties for them because they're just not going to do it. They don't have the knowledge and the understanding of the principles and even just playing cards in general to make that kind of connection to make the trick as powerful as possible. So I like to talk about it being a cliff, and you want to walk them all the way to the edge of the cliff, and the reaction is them falling off,
I
right?
can see what
So
you're
if you
saying.
and you bring them closer to the cliff by enhancing the impossibility, explaining why the effect is more impossible, and you
So
really have to
in
paint
your
that.
presentation, explaining why this trick is so impossible itself, and then
Exactly.
the final reveal, it kind of okay. I see what you're saying. No,
And a
I get
lot of
that. I
that
agree with
is
that.
stating the obvious because again, people
Right.
are going to either not pay attention and miss things, or they're not going to put two and two together. They're not going to say, well, why does a shuffle make an ACAN more impressive? That's not going to connect for them. So think about it. The cards were mixed, and now we can also get into recapping. But when I have that moment where when I'm actually doing it, I say, watch, I'm going to give these cards a shuffle. You can see these are actually being mixed. Like that's basically narrating. I'm doing it, I'm
Right.
spicing it up a little bit, adding it a little bit more exciting, which I do think is important, but I need them to see this moment so they can connect to it. So later, and every time I do something like this, it's pulling them closer to the edge of the cliff so that this is like my biggest tip for getting better reactions. Literally walk them to the edge of the cliff. And now all you have to do is turn over whatever it is that final, and there are you that big reaction. And so I think stating the obvious is super important for those reasons, tying it up, helping your spectator understand the effect from your perspective. So share everything about, like, without telling them the methods, share everything about why this is such a impossible, amazing effect, but like obviously tie it into your presentation in a way, like I was kind of explaining, right? And then now you have concrete moments to now link to when you recap. That's kind of my
No,
thoughts on how.
I get 100% what you're saying, and I kind of fall into that also when teaching magic effects. Sometimes I'll leave things out that might seem simple, and I get questions later.
Mhm.
So on the other side of teaching magic, how do you feel is the best way to teach an effect in terms of explanation and setup and
So like if I was teaching you a trick, for example,
right?
And you're more looking for like medium or like sort of a process.
Well, where it's a wide range that anybody can learn the effect that you're teaching. Sometimes I feel like I'll leave things out, not intentionally, but just because they're just so ingrained. You know what I mean? Do you ever
Yeah.
have that issue?
You know what? That's been a big thing that I've tried to really focus on the channel is like breaking down everything in a way that is different. Because I do teach a lot of stuff that's been taught a bunch of times on YouTube, and generally I find like I get a whole bunch of comments of people saying like, "Oh, this is like the best breakdown I've seen. This is awesome." And I think the reason for that is the level of detail. You know, teaching is a really tricky thing to get good at, and it's something that I've continued to develop. I think if we're talking medium, I think in person's the best, obviously, because I can
Right.
literally like grab your hand and make you. But
And show
and
you.
then one-on-one coaching, right? Which I do a lot of one-on-one lessons with a lot of people, and that's awesome. And it's a really great way because you can diagnose everything. But then next, I think is video. I think video is so much better than everything else. And I think so. What I try to do is I say, well, what if I was someone who had no idea about magic, how would I have to teach that person the trick? And so if I did that for every video would be 2 hours long, right? Because I'd need to teach you how to hold a deck. I'd need to teach you how to spread. I'd need to teach like
Right.
things that, again, like you say, you take for granted. And that's why I love like that I've been able to build a bit of a resource, like a resource pool on YouTube, right? Where it's like, if there's a little thing, I can just say, oh, here's a video if you need to learn that, right?
Right.
And ultimately, when it comes to teaching, you need to go back to the fundamentals. I mean, my brain works in a very like logical way. So like sometimes you'll hear me talking about a move, and I'm talking about like uh, you know how to apply the pressure, what the path of the force should be, like through your hand. Like you're doing a second deal. Well, a lot of people say just push the card over, and it's like no, you're applying sort of a diagonal pressure along the back of the card to cause it to pivot around. And it's these little things that like I think people overlook that is it's really just think about what you're doing in a lot of detail. People are like, well, just do this, just do that, just do it. And then like I've had so many people in like a lesson, even I don't realize like I'm teaching something. I'm like, okay, just do that. And they're like, I'm like, no, no, no,
Man, let me tell
do
you that
that.
the push off double lift took me so long to get down, and once I finally got that feel for it,
Yeah, brother.
it's my
Yeah.
favorite lift. It's my favorite lift for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you know what? I think another thing, like at the end of the day, if you want to get really good at something, a lot of the onus is going to fall on you, obviously. But I think a lot of people like, I don't know if it's entitlement or it's maybe, I don't know if lack of discipline is the issue, but like I feel like people will watch a video on how to do something, right? Let's say anything in life, but let's say we're talking magic, right? And you watch it and you're like, oh, he didn't tell me what to do with my pinky. Like again, if I told you what to do with every single part of your body, like, okay, with your toes, they should be planted firmly on the floor while you're doing your double lip. Like, you know what I mean? Like some people, they like take it too far, and it's like, so even okay, maybe I didn't mention exactly where to have your pinky, but just watch the video. Just look what I do with my pinky. I think that's a really big tip when learning magic, it's from video format in particular. People will watch the video and it's almost like their eyes are closed and they're just listening to it, right? And everything that I say on the video, if you're learning from me, for example, you'll do all of that. But then you have questions. You're like, well, what do I do with my ring finger when you do this part of the move? It's like just watch. That's why it's on video. If I forgot to mention, have your pinky on the back corner of the deck, just literally look. Even though I didn't say in the video, because people, I think it's that when they hear something said, they're latching on to what I'm talking about. But you can watch a video on mute and see the thing that you need, whatever your question is. It's in the video, right? It's on camera. A picture says 1,000 words, right? I think that's
That's
a
the
really good
interesting
tip.
thing about like learning from books as well. It's kind of similar in that sense that you have to learn from these photographs or drawings, and then you have to kind of figure it out. It's a trial and error process. And I think
Absolutely.
the same could be with videos, but with videos you have that benefit of going back, watching,
Yeah.
zooming in if you have to.
Yeah, and,
It's a
and
big
like
benefit.
the thing with older books where it was just words, no pictures, like that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, where the words in the book are like the audio from the video. And I think a lot
Right.
of people, they watch a video like it's a book. So they listen to the audio and they try to figure it out. Where with a book, an old book, if it had no pictures, you're literally reading it and that's all you get. You don't get anything more. You have to figure it out with what's there. But it's like we have this amazing resource with a video. You'd be amazed at how many comments I get like that, where it's like people like, "Oh, what do I do at this moment?" or what do I do with this finger?" And it's like, I mean, okay, I didn't tell you where to, again, put your thumb on this move because it's not really important. But just open your eyes, look at the video. You see where my thumb is. You can do the same thing. Like, I think, and that's where it's like you need to put in the work, right? You can't just expect everything to be spoon fed to you at the end of the
Right.
day. You know.
I mean, yeah, there's plenty of things that it took me a while to learn, just trial and error till we finally figure out. And you'll once you get it, you'll have that feel for it. You'll get it once, and then you'll know, okay, I'm onto something here. You
Have you
know?
ever one thing that I find really helps me, and I've had success with some of my students telling them to do this, kind of almost just like, I don't know, it worked for me. Let's see if it works for you. Tell me if you relate. Like, I find taking a break is such an effective method. So like you do
Yeah.
something, like I remember the bottom deal is like the best example of this for me. I probably learned the bottom deal like maybe 6 years ago or so, and I was like, I remember I was in uni at the time, I think. Yeah, university, and I was just like, let me, try to learn this. I got, I think, Daniel Madison's Bottom Deal masterclass or whatever it was, and I watched it and I just practiced it for like a couple of hours a day for like maybe a week, and then I got to the point where I could like kind of do it, and I was like, okay, I can kind of do this, but I like the progress kind of stopped, and at that point, I just kind of realized like there's a point where there's nothing you can do more to progress than just to practice the move over and over, and it'll
Right.
just kind of sort itself out. And I realized like, and eventually I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting any better. I'm going to take a break. And then I came back to it,
And you
and
got
it
it.
was like night and day,
Yeah,
right?
that's happened to me. That's happened to me a couple of times actually. Most recently with like top palm. Once you
Mm.
start getting it, take a little break, come back to it. Next thing you know, your hands are just doing it.
I think it's the
It
muscle
was
memory. It gives
seems a
your
lot fun.
brain some time to like,
Yeah,
ingrain that motor pattern into your
yeah.
subconscious or whatever. I think it makes a big difference. I tell people to do that, man. Just take a break. Don't overwhelm yourself. You're gonna get frustrated.
I think that's very important when it comes to magic. I see. I think sometimes people fall out of love with magic, and I've seen that a
Hmm.
couple of different times. Take a little break. Have other hobbies also. Other things you can kind of switch up, and I find that important in order to keep that spark alive.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think I think if you really love something, you'll always be drawn back to it at some point. Like,
I agree.
I think anytime it's different for me. Like, I can't really. It's hard for me to relate because when I was a kid, I feel like when you're a kid, you just obsess over things and you have no responsibilities. So you're just like, oh, I could just do whatever I want. So I remember learning magic as a kid. Like, I definitely focused on it, and it was like I wouldn't say I was obsessed. Like, it's not all I did. I did a lot of stuff as a kid. I was a high level athlete. I was in the gym all the time. School, obviously, like lots of different things that I did. But magic was always there throughout most of my life. Right. I started at like 6 years old. That was the story of my grandfather happened around then. So it was like it's been forever, and it was just like a slow, steady improvement. But now, when you have all these other things, right? You got bills, you got real life stuff to deal with.
Tell me about
I
it.
think a lot of people, I don't even know that it's that they fall out of love. I think they just like they get overwhelmed, right? And something's got to give, and the hobby's probably the thing that's going to give. But for me, like I
I
kind
agree
of
with
went
that.
from having that kid like passion for it to then it sort of turning into a business, I guess, where the big thing for me, so a lot of people don't know, but I'm actually a full-time engineer. So I still work as an engineer. Um, and I do that for a couple of reasons. I mean, I do enjoy that the work that I do, but magic for me, it kind of ties into what you say. I never want to make the magic not fun for me. And I could see like it's all this like real life stuff when I don't rely on any income from my gigs or whatever the business at all
Right.
to live off of. Like if it all went away, all the magic went away, I'd be totally fine. And so that is like a super big relief in the magic side where it's like it's all fun, and even though I make money from it and I that's obviously nice, it's still like it's amazing that I can do whatever I want. I don't have to accept that terrible gig, you know, like I don't have to
Right.
cut my prices to take like I can do what I want when I want, and everything is at that's not even all important. It's just that it's always fun, right? And the
But
magic's
that
always
is a
fun. I
great
never
position to be in. That is an awesome position to be in because then
totally, yeah.
it's not something you're relying on that you need to, pay the bills. It's something that you're doing out of the passion and love you have for it in your heart.
And that's what I think. Like, I really don't like to talk about myself and whatever. But one thing that a lot of people say is that they feel like there's like they see like a real passion coming through in my videos, or like like a
I
genuine whatever.
agree. Yeah.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. And I think like I really I'm someone who like I'll sit and literally just think about these things, like really try to analyze like what's the reason for that, like what do people enjoy about me, for example. Like I've actually sat there and like thought. I keep coming back to this where because I'm not sitting there like, oh, I gotta make another YouTube video, like, oh, I gotta go do this gig. Like, it's always fun. It's always fun, and I never want magic to not be fun. I never want it to feel like work, and you hear it from pretty much every full time magician.
Yeah.
You know, like it's great because I'm still a pro. I can still call myself a professional magician, which is awesome, and getting to share that with people. I love performing, but I don't have to do it full time. Though, like the amount of work that I put into the channel and all this, it's like a
It
second
feels
full time
like,
job, but
yeah,
it's a
right,
passion project or it's a love, right,
right.
man? Like it doesn't feel like work. Like I'll literally like after this, I'm probably gonna spend the entire rest of my day sitting in the same spot on the computer, getting ready Sunday's video for tomorrow. Working on some projects, but like I'm enjoying it, right?
All right.
And so that's like a super valuable thing. So to kind of tie that all into like the burnout thing, I can't say I've ever experienced it too bad because, like I said, once I went from that kid like passion, it kind of developed into this sort of fun business. And even if it like, I think even if it was a full time thing where you're feeling like it's the thing you need and it's like starting to stress you out, if you're running it as a business, it's like going to your 9 to 5 every day. Some days you don't want to do it, but you got to do it. And so I don't know that like that the burnout would be the same as someone who's a hobbyist and
Right.
they wake up one day and they're like, I'm just not as interested in this anymore. Because it's different. It's like it's either you're a business, you got to do it, you got to pay the bills, or you have that other side where you're kind of you don't rely on it, so it's always fun. So I think the biggest thing for people who have that sort of like hobbyist, like, oh, you know what, I'm kind of feeling burnt out. I think there's a couple of reasons that can happen. One, I think you're getting discouraged because you're possibly shooting outside your range, right? You're trying to learn these really hard things when you haven't mastered the fundamentals.
That's a good point. Especially when you purchase books or there's
Yeah.
videos, whatever it is, and you see things that you're not able to do yet, and some people do get a little discouraged from that, but those things you got to build towards, and especially
Yeah,
with books and stuff like that, you can always open them back up and say, oh, I know this move now, I can move on to a next level, or I've learned this or that, etc. But I
totally,
agree.
man. and even like imposter syndrome, like I think that's kind of what you're hinting at too, right? Where you're like,
Oh yeah, for
oh my
sure.
god, all these people are so good. And here's what I say to people, man. I'm like, in your lifetime, I'm not talking magic conventions, I'm not talking your club meetups, but in your regular everyday life, how many magicians have you met? Most of the time, the answer is zero. Most of the
Yeah,
time, it's zero. Like not through your connections that you made online, just like a genuine random, interaction. Most people, it's going to be zero. For
yeah.
me, I've met a few only because I'm out doing street magic and people see me and the magicians always come up to me. But besides those interactions in my regular, like going to the grocery store, I never met a magician in my life. Right? I don't even think I've ever seen another magician out in my life, like
It's pretty
at
rare.
random. Right. And so that to me is like such a like a real life. It's not just some theory like, oh, I'm telling you this is true. You've experienced it. We've all experienced it.
I know it's
So
true. Yeah.
that's two things that yeah, it's two things that you should like really internalize, which is like one, what you do is amazing and very rare. And that is why I'm such a huge like proponent of like get out there and perform because you're gonna change your life, but you're gonna change other people's lives too in a really positive way. So there's that side of it. And then there's this feeling of not being good enough, the imposter syndrome. It's like, what do you mean not good enough? Like you are the only person that you might ever meet in your life who has even any ability with these skills, right? So it's just, yes, again, I think it's the social media in every aspect of people's lives has really fueled imposter syndrome, right? You hear it's the
That is a
highlight
good
reel.
point. Yeah.
And like let me tell, if anyone's watching this who sees my videos and they ever feel that way about me, like the amount of stuff you guys don't see, the like my 20-minute video was 40 minutes long on raw footage, right? And 15 minutes of that was me doing the performance over and over and over because I couldn't get it right, you know?
I've been
And
there.
then
I
the
have
street
been there. I know
magic,
exactly
yeah,
what you
bro.
mean.
And then the street magic, you would like I have terabytes of footage of me messing up that I didn't want to put on YouTube. Like, and oh, this is another thing that we should definitely talk about is messing up. So
Failing.
let's
Yeah.
come back to that
Failing to learn.
because
Yeah.
that's a big topic that I have a lot to say on. But there's so much that you only see the highlight, and then people, oh my god, this one. I think I made a deer magician actually. I get this a lot. People will send me other people's videos or my own videos a lot of the time, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, how did he do this?" And I don't mind them asking. I mean, depending, I might, it really depends on the situation. If I'm like giving away someone's like work or
Yeah.
their something themselves, of course I'm not going to say it. But if it's just like, oh, just think about it this way, and if I can help someone out in a way that's productive. But the thing that really bothers me about it is like people watching magic through video and feeling like there's like gods on the other side of the camera. It's like no, everyone is doing we're all doing the same thing. Doesn't matter if you're watching O's, it doesn't matter if you're watching Darren, doesn't matter if you're watching Peter Turner, whoever you're watching, we're all doing the same fundamentals. It's just they have found what it makes them stand out is frankly in today's day and age, of course ability is amazing. They're very talented, but who are great performers and very talented. What makes those guys stand out in today's day and age is their ability to control the narrative, right? Control what you see on camera, control how they come across, um, how they appear as a person, what their character gets broadcasted as. So every clip you see online is nothing like what it was most likely in the real world.
I
Like
agree with you. I feel like
especially
whoever
with mental.
your favorite magician is, they have
Yeah.
failed just as much as you or any other magician in order to get where they are.
And the big thing I'm getting at is like with people, asking about things, it's like, but it's impossible. He never had them write it down. I'm like, you're seeing 60 seconds of a probable 5-minute performance. And like pre-show is
Right.
such an amazing thing. And I guess more talking mentalism here, obviously, but pre-show is amazing. I'm a huge proponent of pre-show, and I've started to develop, honestly, just in the last year or two. I've been inspired by a few things I've seen, but I've also come up with some new concepts of what I call like pre-video. So ways that you can pre-show an audience for a camera, a social media performance. So you can pre-show them and then make it seem as if it's a real it's a real interaction that just begins at the moment the camera starts rolling, and then you can have the cleanest performance ever with no cuts,
Yeah.
right? Because the big thing, like if you see a camera cut in a video, there's no problem with that. But I think what some of these guys who are really talented, if you watch their videos, it appears that there's no cuts, and that's one of the things that makes it so strong. So either they're doing, some kind of great pre-show technique, they're doing some kind of great um, structure of a routine where they can do the dirty work first and then just kind of go into the next part, and it seems like it starts
Yeah.
at halfway through, or like and they have the money to be able to do this, they all have multiple cameras. And the amazing thing with multiple cameras is you can hide cuts because
Yeah.
it's just cutting
Yeah.
between cameras, but you would never realize that they also cut a minute in the future. You just think they're
Right.
switching the camera. Whereas if I, I'm most of my videos are filmed on one camera, so it's very obvious when there's a cut, right? So there's all these things where like it's so frustrating when people get discouraged. They see these other things, they're like, oh my god, these guys are doing superhuman things. And I get that a lot too, like, how did you do this? And then they'll email me and I'm like, I used a one ahead, or I used a billet, and they're like, there's no way, like that's impossible. Or oh my god, yeah, I hope you like tangents. Or like people come to me, dude, I have had like even non-magicians like book me for like some private lessons because they see my stuff and they're like, I want to learn how you guess that person's name. I hate that. And it's not because if someone was willing to put their hard-earned money to learn from me, I'm very grateful and I'm happy to teach them some stuff. I want them to be able to walk away with something, right? But the problem is they come in with such high expectations. They think in 1 hour, I'm going to teach them how to walk up to someone and guess their name with no props.
Yeah.
And I have to like have this really tough conversation for the first 20 minutes of our lesson. Like, what you see online, there's a lot more that goes into this. This is going to take us 1,000 lessons, first of all, to get you from zero to good enough. So I hope you got a lot of a lot of
It's a lot of
money.
work you got to put in.
You know, well, that's the one thing. It's a lot of work you got to put in, and then beyond that, it's the expectations. It's like I teach them, like let's say, okay, I teach them how to do just a very simple. Have them write it on a billet, put it on top of the deck, shuffle it to the bottom, peek the bottom of the deck, and give it to them. And they're like, but that's not what you did. I'm like, no, it is what I did. Or they're like, but that's not good enough. No one's gonna believe it. I'm like, well, that's what I did. Or they're like, but I saw Oz Perlman do that, and how does he do it? Because I want to learn what he did. I'm like, he's doing the same things. And if you know what to watch for, you
Right. You can
you
catch it.
can see exactly what's happening, right? And that stuff just frustrates me. And I mean, you can't blame sort of a layman. They don't know. But when magicians, and I get like if you know it, if you just don't know, you're a beginner magician, that's fine. But what frustrates me, I guess, is people who I know that you know, or maybe being too the word, like where you don't like you just I'm just trying. I'm basically this whole rant was just trying to tear down people's imposter syndrome, right? Like understand that everything you see is being done on stuff you probably already know.
It's funny,
And
especially I find with mentalism, like the expectation of the method. You're thinking, oh, this has to be something else, and it turns out a lot of times to be things that you already know, or things that are simple, or it don't have an
yeah,
expectation when it comes to method. And sometimes the methods are wonderful, like who thought of this, and then sometimes they are like, wait, that's it. you know but
most of the time it's that.
it's yeah, yeah. But I've learned to tame expectations of methods because it's not really about the method, it's more about the performance. Now methods are really cool sometimes.
Hmm.
They are really interesting. Sometimes they're more interesting than the effect to us magicians, for sure. Um, but
100%.
yeah, like you're saying, there shouldn't be an expectation of, oh, the method has to be some extravagant thing. A
Yeah.
lot of times it's not.
A lot of times, man, and
Yeah.
it's not all that interesting, and it doesn't matter. Like it, like you say, methods are really cool, but that's
Yeah.
just like sort of something that you can do as like something to fuel your interest in magic, like learn cool
Right.
methods, right? But a lot of times, like some of the methods that I think are super cool, when I go try them, they don't work well. It's not that they don't
Or yeah,
work, it's that the spectators can't follow the method.
instructions, and I've run into
They can
stuff
go
like that. Yeah.
wrong. Yeah, and it's all about like learning how to refine your performance. Like another big thing that I'm a big proponent of is like at the end of the day, and this is a super important lesson, I think. No matter what goes wrong in your performance, you can never blame anyone but yourself. I don't care if the spectator was super drunk and not following your instructions. That's your fault for choosing them to do the trick. I don't care if you told them the instructions, they're of a clear mind and they still did it wrong.
You weren't
It's your fault for not being clear enough, right?
you weren't conveying those instructions properly
Properly.
in the
Like
theory.
no matter what, if they, like so a couple stories. So I was out last night downtown. I was filming a bunch of stuff for some new projects and some street magic for the channel and stuff. And so I was doing this one. I was just doing a simple kind of one ahead thing. So someone thinks of something, someone thinks of something, but one of them is forced, one of them is a free choice, and then I'm just gonna write and switch the
Right.
billets at the end, right? Speaking of the one ahead, I have a really awesome project on the one ahead coming out probably tomorrow. I just got to finish editing it. My one ahead masterclass. It's like 3 hours long. It's massive.
Oh
Um,
wow.
it's pretty awesome, man. It's got some. It's. I think it's kind of the be all end all of the one ahead. Like I put so much work into this. It's going to be on my YouTube membership. So if anyone is interested, it's pretty awesome. There's a lot of good stuff up there. But anyway, I don't want to plug too much. Um, but it just reminded me that because that was one of the things I was filming for, just getting some of the live performances last night. So I was doing this thing right, and the method I was going to use to force, um, I think it was an animal on this first guy, was this app called Inertia by Mark Kirstein. It's a great app. It essentially allows you to do a scroll force, so they can scroll and it forces where it stops. But a lot of the scroll forces, the phones turn face down, so they don't see it or something. This one, you can do it and they can literally see it, and it just uses the inertia of the page and it times
Just
like
huh.
the scroll and it stops it. So it's really really good, and you can use it with any web page you want. So you go to your favorite news outlet, you go
Oh,
to
that's cool.
Netflix, you go to Amazon, you go to. So I have this one that I use a lot. It's just a web page with a bunch of pictures of animals that I found. So I go for the force, and I'm just like, okay, so my justification, right? Because it's all about justification. Why wouldn't he just think of an animal,
Right.
right? Why are we going to do it this way? So
That's important.
super important. So I said something like, and actually on that note, there was a little interesting thing that happened, a little side story that I'll say while I'm giving you this. But so I say, okay, I want to have you think of an animal, but people that tend not to go for super random animals. So what I do is I have this list with all these animals, and this just really lets you generate a truly random one. And before I got to finish what I was saying, he pipes up and he says, "Well, I've already picked one." Right? And
Mm,
you get, and I'm like, oh, but here's why I don't want. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I like I said, I don't want you to just think of one because people they tend to go for very common animals like elephant, and he's like he lost it. He lost it because he was thinking of elephant. So I had a really nice little lucky hit in there,
that's
which was awesome.
hilarious.
Right?
That's
That's my
something I
little
like to
side
bring
story.
up during a lot of these conversations because I find it so interesting when coincidence meets opportunity. It
Absolutely, man. You got
happens
to take advantage.
so often. It happens a lot. Like really, really happens a lot. So, how do you feel about that? And do you have a really funny story besides the one you just told me, because that is pretty funny.
I do. Can we circle back to that? Because I wanna finish
Yeah,
this
sure.
thought on the
No problem.
the one ahead thing. So don't forget that there's that, and then there's failing tricks. Write those down. Keep those in mind because those are good
Got
topics.
it.
So on this one, the big thing was we're talking about what were we going at? We were talking about things going. No, it wasn't. I remember the story, but what was the point?
The story
um,
was where he was scrolling through and he
yeah,
stopped
yeah. I
and
know
he
what the
said, "I was
story
already
is. I
thinking
just
of
don't.
one."
I remember the story. I don't remember why I was
Okay.
telling it. Anyway, I'll just keep telling it, and it'll probably come back to me. So,
Okay.
so that was like the side story, right? And that was pretty cool. But then it allowed me to like my justification was going to be so I always say the elephant thing if I'm doing animals. I say, because people they tend to go for
It's very
something really
common.
common like an elephant, right? And I don't want you to
Yeah.
go home tonight and think I just got lucky. So we're going to do this in a truly random way. And that's how I justify the phone. So I bring out the phone. He does the scroll.
Justification.
Yeah. He does the scrolling. It forces. I know it hits. I'm not looking at the phone, but funny enough, the way I knew it hit was also kind of lucky. We're in a bit of a darker environment on the street, and I knew I was forcing I think a turtle on him, and so it had like a blue ocean background, and I saw his face light up blue as I like when it landed. So I knew the force had hit, and that's important because I go through the one ahead, and one girl who had the freely chosen thing, that's the one I'm going to reveal at the end because it's a free choice, totally amazing. And then his will be also really good, but a little step down. So I reveal that first. So I do my switch and I open. I say for the first time, "What animal are you thinking of?" I'm expecting him to say turtle. The man says zebra, and I'm like, "Zebra."
Oh no.
And it's not a big deal to get into failing stuff. So I'll be honest. I went for turtle. I didn't get it, but Um, but let me see if I got hers, and if this worked, then I really have you two pinned down, and I can really make this pay off in the grand finale. And I just put the billet away, and they totally forget about that moment, and then I reveal hers, and they freaked out, and that was it, right? And on YouTube, you'll probably see that performance, but you'll probably just see that part of it.
Right.
I wanted to make a video where I show all of my failures and how I got out of them, because I mean, and this isn't a cocky thing. I don't mess up. It's not because I don't mess up. I mess up all the time. Things don't go right, but I save everything. I know how to save things, and that's why I want to talk about failing. So we'll get to that. But
Roll with the punches.
it's interesting. I can't. And I asked him. I said, "Well, how did you get zebra?" And then one of the girls who had also seen the phone, she said, "Well, turtle was the one you saw on the phone. Like, why weren't you thinking of turtle?" So she obviously understood the instruction. He's like, "Well, I saw turtle, but I wanted to change my mind." So he just decided on his own to change his mind. So
Being
how
very
what I
difficult.
take from that lesson, and this was the point, I remember now, it's about always blaming yourself. What I take from that is simply I was not clear enough that the one that's on the phone is the one I need him to think of. Right? So next time, hey, you're going to scroll on the phone. Whatever one you land on, I want you to keep that one in your head, lock it in, don't change your mind, because I want you to really have a clear image of this. That simple line is now going to save the day. And it's just a little thing
E-
that I learned that I should add in as an insurance policy, right?
Every failure is an opportunity to learn something, for
Absolutely, man.
sure.
Huge opportunity. You have to take advantage of it. Yeah.
Now, I wrote down failure and coincidence. I like to go ahead and stick on the topic of failure because I do find that interesting. I think there's a lot to be said about that that can help a lot of
Mhm.
people out there,
Absolutely.
because
I have
it can get discouraging, you know, to some people. But once you kind of like go through it enough times and see, okay, this is actually helping me versus, especially
yeah,
if you practice for friends and family and stuff like that, it's not too bad.
absolutely. So my first thing is I'll say I think I have at least two videos talking about this. One is in my Mentalism 101 series, which is kind of a series about someone who doesn't know into anything about mentalism. You start on the first video, you watch it. It's a whole course. It's always developing. The next episode's coming out. That's what's coming out tomorrow, 11 a.m. It's going to be about the one ahead. So it's not the master class, but it's a part. It's kind of the what you need to know, the basics of the one ahead. And then if you want more on that, it's going to be in the master class. So um, that's in that series. I have a video maybe around episode 10 called "Saving Tricks." So it's all about saving tricks, but in the context of mentalism. So if I actually, because I have it right here, let me pull up that exact episode, just so people, if they're interested. Saving tricks, where is it? Interesting. Okay, well, nope, you'll have to find it yourself because I can't find it. But it's in there somewhere. And then in my How to Make Your Magic
Best
Better.
plug ever.
Yeah, right? It's in there somewhere. Go watch every video until you find it.
Look, I mean, you made it disappear. That's a magic trick in itself.
I thought,
Um, Another thing I wanted to bring up, because I've actually been I've been watching your channel for a long time now, and I kind of
appreciate that, man.
saw no problem, man. You have great content. I kind of saw the transition from like mostly card stuff to getting into mentalism. Tell me a little bit about your journey of how you got into mentalism. You know, what did you find that helped you? What did you read? Because I myself am in that little transition period, so to speak,
Hmm.
and I am wanting to get into doing more mentalism. Um, so I like
Okay,
to
which topic do
hear.
we want to go first? Do we want to finish failures or do we want to go into this? Because this is a whole other thing. Which one
Oh
do you want
man.
to do? We can do, I
All
mean,
right,
we'll do
let's talk a
both, but
little
which
bit
one?
more about failure, but we'll keep this in mind. I want to transition into this.
Okay, write it down, man. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I got it.
Um, so so the thing with failures, and so I have that, and I think there's a video in my How to Make Your Magic Better series about more kind of not specific to mentalism, but in general. And you know what? I think that is why I can't find the video I'm looking for, because I think the one I'm thinking of is in
Okay.
that series. So let me double check. Uh, Saving tricks. There we go. How to Make Your Magic Better, episode 16. So the concept for me, I'm a big believer in planning, right? That saying proper planning prevents piss poor preparation, right? Or yeah, something like that. Piss poor performance, not preparation. There you go. And advice that I'm sure we've heard, people have heard before, but it's very true. Think about the things that can go wrong and think about how you'd save them, right? That's a pretty standard thing to understand. So I won't spend too much time on that, but essentially you're just thinking like, okay, if someone, you know, shuffles the deck when I don't tell them to, what can I do, right? What if someone drops the cards? What if someone's thinking of, they decide to change their mind to zebra in the middle of the trick, right? What would I do? So all these things to think about. Then one of my biggest tips is the idea of universal outs, right? Now, this is something that, again, some people touch on this, but I think I've got a lot of interesting thoughts more on the mentalism side of it, but let's talk just quickly about all of it. So, playing cards, my favorite two universal outs that I recommend, one of them I don't use because I don't even own one, but would be the invisible deck. I don't even, believe it or not, I don't even own an invisible deck. I never have. I'm a very like minimalist performer. That's something that I'm a big proponent of. So I only use a regular deck, not for any kind of like, oh, I'm better than
Yeah.
you or anything. It's just literally the stuff I do is all regular deck material. I like to be able to pack light. You know, I have some stuff here in case we got into the topic of everyday carry, but my everyday carry, this is what I call my performance pack. And so normally it'd have a rubber band on it, but it's a stack of billets with a
Billets.
regular deck and a Sharpie, and I just rubber band that. It goes in my pocket. And then my phone is the last thing because I do a lot of stuff with the phone, and that I perform 99% of my material with that. And then, you know, I usually carry a duplicate card,
These are
and
always good to have. I always keep
that's
one
a
in my wallet.
yeah, and I have a few other things. So I have an Orphic wallet, but I honestly never use it besides for like for peeking or anything or card to pocket, a card to wallet. I just store various little extra cards, kind of like you're saying, and some billets in there. And then, and again, that is like, that's just I honestly rarely use it. It's just on me, so I put some stuff in it, but like literally most of it is done with those four props: the billets, Sharpie, deck, and the phone. And then on my keychain, I have a mini Sharpie just in case. Again, this is like a backup. And I have this, which is kind of cool, but again, I don't really use it much. SC2KR. I don't know if you've heard of this. Signed card to keyring.
Okay, yeah.
So you can do a signed card appearing in here magically. Um,
I've got a ring flight that I keep. My daily carry is very similar to yours. I got a Sharpie, of course, deck of cards, couple rubber bands,
mhm.
real light stuff.
Yeah,
Just common stuff. Ring
totally,
flight,
man.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. And so for me, I don't do invisible deck, but it's the ultimate out. Pretty much any card trick that goes wrong, you can save it with invisible deck, right? Oh, you lost their card in the deck. What was your card? Oh, the Jack of Hearts. That's interesting. I actually keep one deck, and I always have a card reversed in here, whatever, or anything. The one that I do more often because I use a regular deck would be card to pocket, right? So, oh, what was the card you went
Oh,
for? Jack of Hearts. Oh, interesting. It's funny because I actually don't see, the Jack of Hearts in here anywhere. Like if I'm looking for it, I mean, it could be anywhere. I don't know, but actually, there's one card in my pocket here. If I pull it out, it's a Jack of Hearts, right? And that is
Brent
literally,
Braun's wallet lives. I live with this thing. Brent Braun's. I
yeah,
forgot the name of it.
the
It's a
FPS,
card to wallet.
FPS.
FPS wallet.
Yeah,
Yes, I love it. Absolutely love
yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
my
So like,
just regular everyday wallet.
totally, man. So literally, all I do is okay, Jack of Hearts, go through. I mean, I'll use the call to get it to the top, but you don't have to. You go through. Oh, interesting, Jack of Hearts. I actually don't see it here. That's funny, and you can just cut it to the top, and then literally say because there is one card that I keep down here in my pocket, and then top palm, boom, pull it out, and it was never in the deck. Whatever you want to do, like that is a great
Yeah,
out because almost
I
anything you lose the card, they mess up the shuffle, whatever it is.
I've been having some pretty good success with finding the card. You know, just going through there and just doing a turnover pass, top palming it, and going straight into the pocket.
Totally, yeah, that's
Yeah.
all great. Mentalism, on the other hand, is also really interesting. The ultimate sort of universal out is the one ahead principle, and a big focus of the masterclass that I'm working on is there's a whole section on how to use it to save any mentalism performance that goes wrong. But just to give you a little bit, like the basic concept would be, well, someone's thinking of something. Let's say you can't read their handwriting, so you missed the peak. Let's say I've had people like write down something different to try to mess me up. I've had people like, uh, I do some kind of peek with a phone in the notes app or something, and it just doesn't work for whatever reason. Whatever happens, the guy's thinking of zebra instead of turtle, like whatever it is. Well, the second there's a piece of information in their head that you don't know what it is, and whatever your intended method was fails, jump into a one ahead. Force something on someone else. I'll just do a playing card. So let's say, Brendan, that you're thinking of something, right? Like I tried to peek it, but I couldn't read your horrible handwriting, right? So I'm stuck. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You're actually really tough to read, Brandon. Like thought I was on the right track, but it's kind of getting blurry. I'm gonna see. I think I might be able to get something with them. Don't worry, I'm gonna come back to you. Just keep that thing in your head. Okay, you. I just need a little bit of make a little bit of ground here. So let's do something simple. Instead of just thinking of a card again, I want this to be truly random. So just reach down and touch one. Force, right? So I already know what this card is. Eight of clubs. Now I say, okay, both of you think of your thing, you think of your card. Okay, send it to me. Okay, one of yours is coming in strong. This is like, oh, it's more like an object or a person. I think it actually might be yours. Hold on. Okay, now it's coming through. Write down eight of clubs, fold it up, hand it to you. Okay, now go for yours. Blah, blah, blah. Or, well, I'd be over here, and then I'd say, okay, I've locked it in for the first time. What was it you're thinking of? You say dog. I'm like, that's so crazy. You're not going to believe this. We're going to get to that in 1 second. Let me just go here. Oh, your card. I'm thinking it's a black card, somewhere in the mid range. Hold on. I think I got it. I write down dog. hand it to him, take them both back. Look, you never said, you thought of anything. You never said yours out loud. Put it in my hands. Here, open it up, dog, open it up, 8 of clubs, right? You can save
It's
anything.
brilliant, and sometimes I feel like when you have those situations like that in the other person's head, it makes it a little bit more realistic that you're actually trying to do.
Totally.
You're trying to read them.
And I don't mind these misses either. Like sometimes, so the only thing that's super hard to save is when you've committed to something on a billet. And most of the time, I like to do what I call an open reveal. So closed reveal is the idea of usually it's verbal. You can do open verbal reveals, but a closed reveal in general is it's closed off to one or two people, right? Only they know if you got it right, and then everyone else is reacting to their reaction. Generally, that's not advised because then again, people are reacting based off their reaction. If you have two tame spectators, it's going to, make the whole audience tame.
Flat,
So
right?
the open reveal is generally better, and that's when everyone knows what it is, and you turn it around and reveal it, and everyone reacts. And that's why billet reveals are always really good, because you can have that person for the first time say it out loud to everyone. Now everyone knows, and
Everyone
then I turn
knows.
around the prediction. But there's verbal ways to do it, like sometimes justifying your peak with a billet can be a really great way to get into a verbal open reveal, where it's like, okay, write it down on the billet so you can show everyone else. So now they write it down, they show everyone, and then everyone now knows what it is, and I can still reveal it verbally. But the reason I say that is, you know, when you're doing these kind of open reveals and you write something down on a billet, if they say the wrong thing, like the guy did when he said,
Right,
zebra, I had turtle on the billet. Like now it's much harder to go into a one ahead. You still can. And this is kind of what I talk about in the masterclass, but essentially the concept is I need to find a way to force whatever's written down on someone else.
right.
And then you can leverage that for the one ahead. But you can imagine it might be pretty impossible to force whatever's written on, because it could be anything. It could be some random name, it could be their grandma's name. It's some name from the 20s, and you're like, like what? How am I going to force this name, right? And there's a lot of ways you can do it, but in general, a lot of time these days, I'm taking the L on that one, but I'm leveraging it in a way that mentalism allows you to get away with, like, nonsense. You can say so much nonsense as long as you believe it, and there's a sort of a logical premise followed by a logical conclusion. At least something that this kind of gets into like justifications, where like I'm a big believer that you can really justify absolutely anything. Like one example I always give, like if you told the audience member that they need to, jump up on the table in front of everyone and spin around and dance for the magic to happen, if you've shown them something really impressive already and they've bought into you, and then all you do is a simple little premise and conclusion that is just logical enough that it just kind of flies through their brain, and there's no like red flag that makes them like stop and think about it,
Hey,
they'll do
wait a
it.
second. Yeah,
Yeah, right? Like literally all it has to be is like, oh, you know what, if you do this, it kind of loosens you up a little bit, it opens up your mind, allows me to get inside. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, you just stand on that table, do a quick dance, and it's going to open up your mind. Like I could literally have them do anything. And so because of that, you have so much power. Well, utilize that, and then now if utilize it when something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, you know what? I didn't go for that. I actually went for turtle, but you're someone who I think you actually think a little bit outside the box, and that's kind of why I didn't get it. But these are all just little experiments to help me pin down how you think. Obviously, we just met. I don't even know your name. How could I know anything about you, right? And I'm trying to paint a picture of how you think to make my best guess. So
I've
now that I didn't get that, I think I have a good idea of what it is, and now I move into something more surefire, and I'll nail it, and they won't even remember the miss, right?
I've heard that framing things as an experiment or a trial type of thing also helps in their mind. That this may not work, but if it works,
Hmm.
how amazing would that be?
Sure. I like. There's a careful way to do that. I think you don't want to say like you don't want to emphasize too much that, oh, this is like, you don't want to make it, I guess you don't want to make it feel like a 50-50, because then they're just going to
Right.
feel like you got lucky. So you still have to, I totally agree. I'm a big proponent of, like, when I'm testing new material or trying something, saying, "Hey, look, this is a bit of a mental experiment. It gives me a sense of how you think. It doesn't always, like, I'll say, it doesn't always work, but it's justified. It's like it doesn't always work, but it tells me how you think." And that's a quick won't be let down. But that is true. You don't want to lower their expectations, because then if it goes right,
Right.
so there's a nice balance, and I think that balance is like, hey, I'm trying. It's a little mental experiment. It gives me some insight.
Right.
Strategy.
Yeah. What you say and how you say is very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. Totally,
I have
totally.
a couple other things written down here. I'm
Yeah, let's
just
do it.
thinking as we're talking. Um,
Awesome.
so let's go ahead and jump into mentalism. How did you get into mentalism? Where did you start? What do you think fundamentally helped you reach this high level that you're at now? And how do you practice? Because that's another thing that I find a lot of people talk about is mentalism in particular is very difficult to practice if you're not
Definitely.
going out there and performing, which obviously you need to. That's the best form of practice anyway. But
So, I was just looking for it. Mentalism 101, episode 8, How to Practice Mentalism, the ultimate guide to practicing mentalism. So, that is definitely, there's a lot of thoughts and ideas in there, because I totally hear where you're coming from. So, how did I get started? It was really about 5, 6 years ago. I got to a point where I felt like I am kind of quite good with cards. I know a lot about card magic, and I don't like. Of course, there's always more tricks you can learn, but not much that was still like new and exciting, or kind of like it was rarer that I get like, wasn't really getting fooled by anything. Like, not that that matters, but it's just like, from like, what's new, there wasn't much new, and I was starting to feel a little bit of kind of the burnout, where I'm like, okay, I need something new. I need something different to try to start learning. And mentalism was always, very high on that list. So, and then I learned a lot from Peter Turner. He was like the first big inspiration that I had, as so many people.
yeah, Peter Turner is amazing.
Yeah. And then I kind of, I started probably ahead of where I should have. And then I was like, let me go back, understand some fundamentals. So then I became a big Animan fan.
For
Um,
sure.
and that's one of the things that I'm such a big fan. I think it's so important. So his practical mental magic, or practical mental effects, depending on the version, that book is such an amazing book, right? It is got all the fundamentals. It's got so many good tricks, but there's a couple of issues with it. It was written in the 40s, so it's very dated. Unfortunately, it's no longer practical mental magic. I would just call it mental magic right now, because a lot of it's really not practical.
Right.
Um, there's an effect in the book. I'm trying to remember the name. It's escaping me, but the method is literally, and I always give this as an example because it's so wild. You had to perform the effect in a pitch black room. First of all, talk about restrictions. So
Yeah.
what you would do is you'd have a pad. It was basically an impression pad, but obviously there's no technology or anything. So it's literally a piece of paper with the carbon paper beneath it, and then you'd hand them the pad. They'd write something down. It would be pitch black, which is a pretty cool from an effect perspective, because if you guess what someone's thinking of when all they do is write it down in a pitch black room, that's impressive. But who's going to do that? So anyway, but you needed to do it, because the method is so crazy. You'd be standing in the other corner of the room. They'd be in this corner. You would tie a piece of fishing line from you all the way back to that piece of carbon paper in their pad. Once they write it down, you would grab the fishing line, you would pull the carbon paper to you, and then you would have this like flashlight that you put some like what was it, some like a cloth over, so it was like really dimmed, and then you'd go in your jacket pocket and you'd read the carbon paper. Like, isn't that the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard of?
Wow.
Fishing
Yes.
line to pull it towards you after they write on it, right?
I wish I could have been like a fly on the wall to see that actually being performed back then, because that's hilarious.
Like, it's crazy because I know that people perform that I know it, and the way Animan
Yeah.
talks about it, you can tell like this was an insane piece and he was so proud of it. But it's like now, like no soul would dare do something like that. So I'm gonna do another quick plug, but one thing that I really wanted to do was, one, I wanted to bring all this material to the 21st century, but I also wanted to make it a lot more accessible because it's written, it's tough to read, it's a lot of very short stuff, but there's so much gold in there from the premises, the methods. But
There it is.
first of all, it needs to be updated. Second of all, it's hard to learn. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to teach the whole book on video? And now that's a massive project. The book's like 300 something pages. There's like 200 effects plus in there. But I've made it my goal to teach every single effect, every move, everything from that book, not skip anything. Not only just teach it, but modernize it. So if the premise is dated, if it's like a dead or alive thing, because they used to be really into like convincing people they could talk to the dead. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of us now don't like that. So if it's that kind of premise, I'll take it and I'll change it. Let's say the method's really good, but the premise isn't. I'll give you a new premise and same method or a similar method. If the method
Right.
sucks, like the fishing line, then same premise, but I'll give you a completely much better, more practical method. So
Method.
it's actually revamping it into the 21st century. And I'm going through everything. So I have taught 46 tricks out of the 200 so far. I release 2 every month on my membership. There's a mid-level tier if you just want that course. It's the mentalist tier, and you can kind of get that whole course. So I think it's awesome because you learn all these fundamentals, you learn it on video, but then everything is modernized. So that's kind of a great resource. And so I fell in love with some of these, kind of classics, and I really just started to learn. And I'm someone who's always been a big creator, right? And like I love to create. So then I started coming up with my own stuff once I understood the fundamentals. That's what allowed me
Yeah.
to do that. And then I really fell in love with mentalism, but I quickly realized, like, if you guess someone's mom's name, it's impossible to follow that up with a triumph. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you just, so then it was like a
I
big,
agree.
like, well, how do I merge these two things that I love so much in a way where they can both thrive? So that's what a lot of my work now has been focused on in my performance side and my character, right? Like, so many mentalists, they pull the word magician out of all of their branding. But like, if you go to my website, it still very clearly says magician and mentalist, because I never, at least right now, I have no intention of making that leap because card magic is so important in what I do.
Yeah.
And so a few quick tips, like, there's two ways to do it. I think you either completely separate the two, where like one of my close-up shows that I do is literally 30 minutes of card magic, pause, intermission, and then 30 minutes of mentalism. And that allows me to kind of make these are two different sequence every things that you do. The other thing is like being very vocal with like what it is that you do. So setting it up from the start. So if I am doing more of a walk around, because I'm trying to hit as many groups as possible, they're only getting to see 2 or 3 tricks each. I want them to see a little bit of everything, right? I don't want to just do cards to
Right.
some groups, mentalism to the other groups, because people will be like, oh, I wanted to see some mind reading or whatever. So then I blend them. And the key there is to up front. There's kind of two approaches that I do. One is to just give a little bit of a mental twist to every card trick that which then makes like mentalism. You make a transpo, where you have your duplicate and you do a double lift and you do another double, and then how could you make that mentalism? It's such a magical moment when they switch. Just say, okay, this is a test of your imagination. I want you see the 4 of clubs. Imagine I set that down there, and then imagine you see this king of spades. Imagine it go over here. And now only if you have a really good imagination is this going to work. Like I said, it's an imagination test. I want you to imagine that the inks, they rise the card, they float in the air. Yet. Okay, really, really imagine, and then boom, and they can turn it over. So there's like ways, any trick you can find a way to twist it. So that's one option. Or the other is to just be very upfront that like, look, I'm a magician, and I've learned, I started in card magic. I learned things, but I've also, started to learn more mental, or you don't have to say started, but I've also learned mentalism, and I've started to realize how to get in touch with people, whatever your story is, use influence, body language, whatever you say. I've started to get a sense of that. And I found that the cards really helped me start to understand how you think and open you up a little bit. And now there's like a clear reason for why these two things are happening together, if that kind of makes sense. So just being upfront with people, like I do a bit of both. And, that's where you get into the topic of like, what's your character and how do you balance them? Because I think a lot of mentalists are afraid, like, oh, if I start doing magic tricks, then they're going to think the mentalism is a trick and they really want it to feel real. And I'm a big proponent of operating in that gray area where you kind of just leave it open. You give them a few nuggets of like, oh, body language, influence, psychology, which are like genuinely real things, but they're not obviously, they're not the whole picture, right? Obviously, the main part of the picture might be the billet peak, but I'm going to tell them that I'm going to try to amp up the bit of psychology that might have been in that routine, but I'm going to make that seem like that was all it was, and then they can draw their own conclusions. And so when you do it, when you're upfront with your audience, like, hey, I do some card magic as well. This is its own thing. It's something that I learned, but I also do mentalism, which is completely different. And I'm kind of the cards help me kind of understand and open you up to be more susceptible to the mental stuff, right? In terms of practicing, I would say I only think the thing that's hard to practice is propless mentalism, which has kind of been the craze the last few years. And I'm a big propless mentalism fan. Like a lot of people, know the stuff that I do and see if you do a lot of propless stuff. And I genuinely do a fair amount of propless material. Even at gigs, I have no problem like doing it. Again, it's all about the frame. It's not always going to hit, but when it does, the amazing thing with propless for me is that it can enhance your billet work so much, right? Like
For sure.
I have a mini lecture called Propless Billet Work on my membership, and the idea of that is how to make your billet work feel propless, because there's a lot of ways to do that. But one great way is if you actually combine it with some propless stuff. Well, if you just read their mind without a billet, then obviously earlier when you used a billet, the billet didn't matter because you did it without one. So you don't need it. It takes all the emphasis off the billet. So that's why sprinkling in a bit of propless, even very simple stuff like guessing their star sign, which is one of the easiest things to do without any props, and it's very surefire. Those things are great just to have these little things in the back pocket. That one person says, oh, I don't want to write it down. Okay, hold on. Do you know your star sign? Let me try this. And then go and just quickly, not 10 seconds, but maybe 25 seconds, nail their star sign, like just to prove it. Okay, see? So now that I know you're a Leo, we're going to try this or whatever,
It's planting that seed, right?
Planting the seed. So propless is hard to practice because the techniques are genuinely all based around either psychology or like different linguistics. And so those things, you can only get genuine responses and reactions pretty much the first time you do it to someone.
Right.
Because it's It's kind of like Magician's Choice or Equivoque, where like if they see you do it twice and it's a
Right.
different result, then it kind of destroys it. So you really need to. It's hard. It's almost impossible to practice it unless you have someone who's kind of in on it. And even then, so one tip, the first kind of tip is when it comes to propless in particular, you need to find someone that you can share the method with. So yes, go to all your family members and do it, but again, you can only really do it once. All these kind of propless tricks, and those ones are the ones that are really hard to practice. So, but don't
That's
waste
interesting.
your
I've never heard
opportunity.
anybody say that before.
Really,
Yeah.
do you get why though? Because it's like those
No, I'd
reactions, all
100%
linguistic.
get it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what I would say is a lot of people they burn through their opportunities. Like I said, there's a fixed number. Let's say you got two siblings and two sets of two parents. So you got four people that you can practice your one trick on, right? You just learned a new propless trick. People get so excited, right? They learn it in a day and they test it on all four of them, and you've just blown all of your opportunity. Sit with it for a few days, a week. Give it what it deserves. Make sure you really got the script down, because
Let it
propless there's
marinate.
also
Yeah.
generally a fair amount of memory. Then go try it on someone. Then take that performance, learn from it, practice a few more days, and then try the next person, right? So by the time you get to that fourth person, it's actually like hopefully a really nice performance. Then of course you can try to FaceTime, proper stuff you can hopefully use FaceTime. You can try to call
Right.
people, your friends, that sort of thing, and try to expand that group. But if you don't have anyone else, the next best thing you could do is get someone who does know the method. So the reason that's important is like you can do it for them genuinely once, but then if you try to do it again, it's where it might fall apart, or it might not look the same, or it might be harder to get the same
Right.
reactions that you're hoping for, or not reactions, but the same. When I say reactions in this context, I don't mean like a freak out at the end of the trick. I mean like a
Right.
reaction to like some kind of psychological ploy, where because genuinely sometimes I'm trying to get a read on the person in a way. So now, if you tell them like, hey, this is exactly how it works at this moment, I'm watching if you perk up and you get excited, or if you don't give me anything. At this moment, I'm waiting to see how long it takes you to count the number of letters in your word, right? In this moment, like, so your action, and these are genuine like things that you're
Right.
doing. And so if they know it, then they can at least play along, right? Where they can give you different types of reactions. Now, the one negative why it's not quite as good as a genuine reaction is because it's not genuine. So you
Right.
need to be able to learn to read, because everyone reacts slightly differently to these things. So you need enough, flight time that you see a good range of different reactions and you can understand what they all mean and how to interpret them. So, but it's better than nothing, right? Where if they can give you like different kind of reactions because they know what you're looking for, just to practice sort of the the memory and the true understanding of the routining. So that's one great tip for propless, because that's the hardest thing. When it comes to more traditional mentalism, like I think you can practice it like playing cards, like you would anyone. You can show the same person a billet peak over and over and over, right?
Right.
Yeah, they might start to pick up on, oh, it must have something to do with the piece of paper, but at the same time, eventually, with your triumph, you're doing the slop shuffle or whatever you're doing, they're going to say, well, it must have something to do with the way he's shuffling the cards after you do it 10 times to them, right? So it's just like anything. Like our families, I've seen so much magic generally that, you know,
Yeah.
at a certain point, they're going to kind of understand a few things. The only thing with the mentalism that becomes hard is these justifications. Like the second time I do it, well, I just told them last time that I want them to write it down so that they can show everyone else in the room. Well, now we're one on one and I want to do it again. So obviously, I can't use that again. That's why it's good to have different justifications, right? I need some water, man. Hold on.
Got mine right here.
Oh, I'm talking so much. So different justifications, and then but a lot of them would work, right? Like if your justification is, oh, I think you're someone who's really visual, so I want you to write it down so you can have a true visualization of it and stare at it and look at it, right, and burn it into your mind before I try to pick up on it. And that's why you have them write it down. I love that. Well, that
I
would
like
work
that.
every
That's
time you that
yeah.
that would work every time you do it, because the next time you do it, you say again, whatever you thought of this time, it's different. And again, I need you to just burn that thing in your mind. So write it down again, stare at it. So you can do that over and over and over, right? Um,
Sometimes,
I think
one of the things that I think would work too is when you write things down, you tend to remember them. You get to
mhm,
like sometimes when I'm trying to memorize something, I'll write it down, and it'll actually help me. That's like something that a lot of
totally.
people relate to, writing notes in class or whatever. So that could be
Yeah.
a good justification, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great justification. And so, what is it in particular that you've heard or that you feel makes mentalism harder to practice?
Um, I don't think it's. I just I've heard in general that it's more difficult to practice versus card magic, sitting there doing slides back to back. Um, I think I think it's just the reason that people have to get out there and perform versus sitting down watching TV or whatever and performing slides. I think that's what people struggle with. That they actually have to get out and perform things,
Yeah.
which is crazy because I mean, you know those people who are slight monkeys. They just they sit there and they practice slides over and over, but they really don't perform. So I think a lot of that might come from that because
Mm,
I think at the end of the day, the best form of training is to actually go out and perform either way.
100%. Absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of performing. I think the last thing on the practicing mentalism is it's really not any more difficult. Like you're practicing sleights in card magic. You can practice all your billet moves, your billet peaks the exact same way. I think the big difference is in the scripting. And not that you need to script it, because I don't script it, but you want to do dry runs. Stand in the mirror or just stand up, pretend there's someone across from you, and run through your whole performance, right? Say everything. Okay, you know what? You're more visual, so I want you to write it down so you can burn it into your mind. Okay, great. Focus on it. Okay, now fold that up, and why don't you just set it down here for a moment? Do your switch, whatever you're doing. Okay, great. Now put your hand on that. Go through, do your process now where you're like, okay, visualize it, touch my hand, whatever you want to do, and then reveal it. And that's just what I think takes more. But still, when you're doing a card trick, I think like, yeah, you practice the moves, but at some point you should be practicing, okay, now I'm going to take your card here. We're going to set it down. You're going to, imagine the ink floats up, and if you're going to practice the routining and the scripting of it as well, right? Even if you're
Right.
not scripting it, but you're gonna. So I think it's really similar. Propolis is the only thing that's really hard to practice. But Propolis isn't the be all end all. Like, it's a good tool to have, and it's really amazing when you can pull off some Propolis stuff. There's no feeling quite like it when you just read someone's mind with literally nothing on you. But it's just a sort of a sprinkle, an added bonus.
Let's see here. There are a couple things that I wanted to ask you that I wrote, just jot down. Oh, real quick, I wanted to just run it back to the conversation we had earlier. Now I really, really want to get a night vision camera and try to film that effect because that is so hilarious. It's like stuck in my brain now. I'm thinking about it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Um,
man.
yeah, I would love to see that. um, let's talk about coincidence. That is one of my favorite topics because it's something that
I got some
happens
crazy ones
all
for
the
you,
time.
man. I got some
Lay 'em
crazy
on me.
ones. Okay, it's probably the craziest thing that I have no explanation for, besides a gift, from above, man, is like I was in Italy on a vacation, and I'm performing mostly for fun. I went with a friend, and they had some family there, and everyone wants to see magic, right, from the magician. So I'm like, cool. Now, obviously, the language barrier was tricky because yes, I could do visual card stuff, but there's still like again, it felt so wrong just like performing in silence or like
Yeah,
you know trying to like no this one like trying to like really dumb down my performance so that they could follow because I'm like there are things that are like it's not going to hit as well. I want to give them the best performance. So I'm like, well, what if you translate? Someone who could the one person who was there could speak both English and Italian. So they're translating, and it was a little rocky, obviously, but it was great. It was going really well. And I did this, one of my favorite effects, something I do all the time. It's called Unshuffling the Colors by Kostya Kimlat. I don't know if you know that, or maybe you've seen me perform it. I do it a lot. Essentially, the effect is they shuffle the deck. I have them pick a card. They just think of it. Like I just show it to them and then they shuffle it. I don't see what it is. And then I tell them I'm going to try to read you and see if I can figure out what the card is. I go through the cards and I tell them to just look for the card, but keep a poker face. Don't give anything away. Then I say, you know what? I really can't. I'm not really sure what your card is, so I'm going to do my backup plan. It's called the unshuffle. So I do this, and then it separates the entire deck that they just shuffled into all the black cards and all the red cards.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's so crazy, and it floors people. So you do that, and then one person's holding the red, one person's holding the black, and then you say, well, like, what was your card? They tell you, let's say it's Jack of Hearts. You're like, okay, so that's over here, and then without touching it, you just go like this, and you drop it in the black, and they spread through the blacks that they had just looked at, and now the only red card that's jumped across is their selection. So super sick trick. I do it all the time. So I did it, right, and they loved it, freaked out. But I had this one guy who was like, he could speak like a very broken English, and he was a little bit more skeptical. He was like an older guy. And he's kind of like, oh my God, that was so cool. And he goes, can you do it with Italian cards? And I'm like, probably, yeah, sure. And because Italian, they do have like different images on the cards and things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, sure, I could do it. And he's like, you could do it with one of my decks. He kind of was thinking it was a trick deck. I'm like, yeah, sure, go grab one. So he walks over, and in my head, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do it because there's moments in the routine that ideally they don't see again. Or I just need to change up the justification a little bit. So I kind of was, while he's getting it, I'm just thinking how I'll change the scripting. I'm like, okay, I got it. I was just going to go through the same process, basically the same method. And he brings over this basket. And in this basket, there's got to be 20 different decks, no boxes, raggedy old decks, out of the box, torn up, cards everywhere, dirty, some in rubber bands, a couple of like torn open boxes. Everything was just an absolute disaster. And I'm like, oh my God, these are going to be tough to handle because the move I'm doing there is it's not the easiest to do for the whole deck. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, pick one. I'm just like, pick one. So he reaches down, and luckily he grabbed like what I would think was the nicest looking deck. It at least had a rubber band around it. So I'm like, hopefully that's like 52. He hands me the deck, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it again. So I open the deck. I take it out, and I swear to God, I spread the deck. It was already separated into red and black. No word of a lie. So I literally go like this. I'm like, watch. And I had the cleanest red and black separation of all time, and they went nuts. And it was, I still don't know how that happened, man. It was like so crazy, so crazy. Just like
that's what are the odds?
That's like one of the craziest stories I've ever even heard. Like it's just so like out of all the cards that he had in that basket, like just being in that moment, the surprise, I was like, oh my God, like I just couldn't believe it. Right, that's insane. Yeah, that's probably the best one.
That's a universal magic trick for you, man.
I couldn't even believe it. And then, I mean, there's been so many moments of I do take a lot of sort of chances in the stuff that I do, but I've come up with like really clever ways to frame these chances. So, one effect that I think like an example of this is I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a pretty popular video, one of my more popular ones. It was like an impromptu wave. You know the Max Maven trick?
Yeah.
Have you seen that video by chance?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that illustrates it well, where essentially it's basically like just a really clever magician's choice that you just basically you force the queen that you want. So no gimmicks, everything's just examinable and
Right.
really nice. And that way it's just kind of a sleight of hand impromptu version. But I always thought like that trick would be so much better if you gave them an opportunity to name the right queen, and then if it didn't work, still be able to go into the magician's choice, right?
Yeah.
And so like the scripting there I think is really nice. It's something like, we all have these. I'm gonna have you make a decision in a moment, but it might not be as random as you think. Like when people tend to name things, they often don't say really random things. They just say the first thing that comes to mind. Like for example, if you named a queen, which one would you say? Now, if they say Queen of Hearts, which is my force, then I say that I'm good and I just move into the routine. But the way I set it up, right, it's not always as random as you think. So here, why don't you name a different queen and I'll show you what I would do. So I say, okay, it's not always as random as you think. If I were to have you name a queen, for example, which one would you say?
Actually, Queen of Spades.
And that's not as random, right? That's just something you just first thing that came to your mind. You didn't have any opportunity to really think about it. So now I'm going to take you through a little process where you can make every single decision about the card so you know it's the one you want. And now I just do a quick magician's choice, get them to the Queen of Hearts, right? So it's that little opportunity for the hit. So I do a lot
Beforehand.
of stuff like that. Like if one of my favorite things that I do, and I still don't believe that I taught this for free on YouTube, and I think about taking it down every day. No, I'm kidding. I won't take it down. But I don't know if you've seen it. My magician's choice for forcing any playing card in the deck, all the way from like 52-1. I think it's really really strong, and it's honestly in my professional repertoire. It's one of the things I use the most, and it allows you
Interesting.
to force any card all verbally, and it basically the reason there's been other people who have thought about forcing cards, but the two ways they go about it is it's either there's some chance involved, so they feel like too much equivoque, so let me do some equivoque and then the rest up to chance, which then you kind of need multiple outs or something. Or it's like, well, let me do all equivoque, but I've never found one that was structured well or looked very good. So I was like, let me come up with my own. I'm super proud of it. It's something I use all the time. But it allowed me to essentially achieve that dream effect of I'm holding one playing card. I want you guys, name a card kind of thing, which was always like, one of those dream effects for me. And so I do that effect
For
all the
sure.
time now. And it's so well justified because like I just say, look, instead of just having you blurt out a card, we're going to make every single decision. You guys will make every choice. We'll break it down so that you can truly know that's the card you wanted and there's no way I had any influence. Obviously, we know as magicians that if you were to just name a card, it's probably more fair, but the scripting sounds so nice. And the key, and magician's choice, I love it, but the key is like everything feels completely different. The scripting is super well thought out, so every premise has a logical conclusion no matter which way you need to take them, and then I know it like the back of my hand so that no matter what they say I can follow up instantly. And I have a lot of other things, like a lot of people, they focus on what I call like the negative versus the positive. So people say, I'm trying to force this card over here, the jack, and I say touch one, and you touch this one. I say, okay, we'll get rid of this. Stop focusing on the get rid of, on the negative. You always need to focus on the positive of the what we have. So instead of saying let's get rid of this, focus on okay, now we're left with, right? It's just a small
Right.
little change in scripting that it's all about focusing on the positive in that. So point being that that
Now,
whole
I've
equivocation.
always liked that give one to me, or push
Yeah,
one to me.
yeah.
That it's really
Yeah, that
strong.
works great because it allows you to focus on, if they push the 5 towards you, and you say, okay, so if we focus on the jack, we're never focusing on the 5, no matter where it goes, right? So focus on the jack. Okay, great. So you're left with or you want the jack, perfect, whatever it is. Or they push towards me. Okay, great. We'll go with the jack, the one that you pushed, or like whatever.
Exactly.
Um, so that thing, like, even though I do the verbal equivoque, right? Let's say I'm doing the one card effect, I would still bake in an opportunity for it to be a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle regardless, but the perfect clean hit, right? It's the exact same script.
Yeah.
People that tend not to pick things very random. Like, for example, if you named a playing card, which one would you say? And then if they say Jack of Hearts, I mean, doesn't get better
Yeah.
than that. If they don't, I just say, and look, and that maybe felt random, but it's not as random as you think, right? That's just your subconscious taking over. So I want to break it down, have all of you make every single decision, and we move into the magician's choice, right?
What playing cards do you get? this is something I've studied pretty heavily into. What playing cards do you get most often when you ask someone to name a random playing card?
Without a doubt, Seven of Hearts.
Seven of Hearts. Okay.
Seven of Hearts, without a doubt. And then it would be Queen of Hearts for women and Ace of Spades for men. Those are my three that I will always go for. So pretty much anything. Like I have this impromptu invisible deck that I'll show you really quick. It's kind of like so basically I always use the Seven of Hearts. So what I do, so okay, I'm gonna make a prediction. But I pull it out and say, okay, I think this is my prediction. I'm gonna lock it in. I'm gonna put it face down in a face up deck. So there's only one card that's face down among all of these. And then I'll go like this, and I'll say, okay, Brandon, if you were to name a card, any card, what card would you say? Now, if you say Seven of Hearts, I would hand you the deck, and you could go through and reveal the Seven of Hearts. If not, what I do with it, I have this idea of it's called the auto index. It's like an open index principle, so it allows you to use the deck in play as an index. And essentially, it's the cull, but it's applying a bunch of other psychology to it, and then this setup phase where I'm here before I ask you to name a card, and this is about 1/3 of the deck. So 1 out of 3 times, I don't even have to spread the deck. I just see your card, and if it's the Three of Hearts, I do this, and now it's on top. Like, so there's anyway, and then if it's not, it's all about just making them feel like you never went through the deck. So if you said Ace of Diamonds, I'd say Ace of Diamonds. Out of all the cards you could have said, now that's what's interesting, and it's here. So it's just a way to quickly access a named card. So let's say I
The
do
Three
that.
of Hearts is something that I see is called out a lot. If it's not the
The
seven,
three.
it's the three. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And then what I like, just to finish the thought on the invisible deck, once their card's on top, then I just say, now look, you could have went for the Six of Diamonds, you could have went for the Two of Spades, but you went for one card, and I'll just show it in there, the one card, and I switch it, right? And then the seven is just concealed down there. And so yeah, I find the Seven of Hearts definitely. I think the most valuable thing is the frequency at which hearts are named above any other suit. I think that's even a more powerful thing, where I think my theory is like hearts are just a much more common shape. Like everyone recognizes the heart. It's the first thing they think of. Most people, they don't know what you call the club or the spade, or they're not as familiar with it. So the heart for sure, and it's definitely more likely picked than the diamonds. So
yeah, red in
I
general
use that a lot.
seems to be picked a lot more than black cards.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all about like kind of knowing your audience too. There's a big element to psychological forces with getting the right read on people.
I agree.
And I think that my biggest tip is to pick someone who doesn't seem like there's a lot going on up there. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean sometimes it's not even like someone who's dumb, right? It's literally, it could be, definitely could be, but it's more so someone who they're living in the moment. They're not thinking too hard. They're just enjoying it, right? They're just there, and you can get that feeling. They're not thinking too hard. They're just enjoying what they're seeing. That's the person you want to try to hit some of these psych forces, because they're not going to think too hard. Hey, name the first card that comes to mind. Queen of Hearts, Seven of Hearts. That's so a lot of it falls on you picking the right person, right? So that's a big thing.
Sometimes I'll just say, give me a number between 1 and 10, and a lot of the times they're gonna say 7.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I could just play with it. Like if you were to give me a suit, all right, you're thinking of a 7, name a suit, and you say whatever.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I have so the original version, before I came up with the verbal equivoque, which is what I use all now, because, and honestly, man, it's so good. It's one of the most in control I feel when performing, because
I'm definitely checking that out as soon as we get done here.
Do you want me to do it on you? I'll show it to you quick.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay, so normally I like to do this where you believe that I don't know what the card is. So whether I force it on you or I just pick out a random one, I obviously would know what it is, but I'm not going to bother. So I'll hold it like this rather than like this, so I can act like I don't know what it is, because obviously I think it's stronger if they don't think I know. So All right. So, so Brandon, the things that we tend to do, when I have you name a card, right? It might not be as random as you think, right? Like, people, they tend to think their decisions are random, but they're really not. Like, for example, if you named a card, which one would you say?
Let's say 2 of hearts.
The Two of Hearts, right? And that wasn't really all that random because deep down, that's just your subconscious taking over. So I really want to break this down to every step so you have every single decision that you know it's yours. You know that's a real decision that you could make. Okay. So I want you to imagine that I have an invisible deck of cards. There's red cards and black cards. I dump out one of the colors. Which color do I dump out?
You dump out black.
Dump out the black. Great. So I'm going to hand you that box of red cards. Can you hold on to them for me? Grab
Got
them.
it.
Yeah. Dump them out in your hands and spread them in front of you.
Okay.
Now you're looking, you see the hearts and the diamonds, right? In your mind, I want you to just keep switching between those two suits. Go hearts, diamonds, hearts, diamonds, hearts, diamonds. Just keep changing in your mind. Just keep saying it over and over and over. And at some point, I'm going to call stop. Now, when I do, I want you to stop on whatever you're at in your head, but don't say it out loud just yet. Sound good?
Got it.
Okay, keep going, and stop. Now, if you were to change your mind one more time, what would you be at?
I would be at hearts.
Hearts. That's a completely free choice. You made every single decision. Now, those heart cards that are in front of you, I want you to separate them into the numbers in the pictures. Imagine separating them like this. And now
Okay.
you hand me one, either the numbers or the pictures. Which one do you hand me?
I hand you the numbers.
The numbers. Great. Spread those picture cards in front of you. Stare at them. These cards are in your hand the whole time. You're narrowing it down. Now we need to narrow it down a little bit more. We got the Jack, Queen, King. Like I said, just we need to narrow it down a little bit more. So, if you were to, can you just name one for me
We'll name the queen.
and name another?
Let's say the jack.
The Queen and the Jack, and that leaves us with one playing card. We're each holding one card. What card do you have?
We have the king.
The King of Hearts. One card. Right? So it's just kind of bringing all these things together in kind of the best way. And you see, I gave
Now,
you lots of opportunity in there to say the best out. And at the end there,
right.
it wasn't you probably picked the worst out, but it still, feels really nice, right?
Oh
Everything's
yeah,
in
for
your hands.
sure.
I'm always focusing on in your hands. Like you really feel like everything you did, you had the card in your hand up until that last moment. We
I
narrowed
have a
things down.
similar equivocate that's almost along the same lines there, and I noticed you use that subtlety that at least I learned from Alex Pandrea. That and if you were to switch, that is brilliant. I
Yeah,
love that so much.
that's called the tombola principle or tombola force. It's a Michael Murray thing.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that a lot. One of the things that I do there towards the end, especially if I'm forcing a picture card, I'll at the end I'll say, I have the jack, the queen, and the king, and if I were to take two away, and then so psychologically they're seeing where I put those cards and take them away, it'll
Hmm.
leave them. What are you left with? And usually
Yeah.
that hits pretty hard.
Yeah, that's great. And I really like stuff like that. But the original version that I used to do before I had kind of scripted all that out was I would do that with the Seven of Hearts, and I would have
Mm.
someone I'd pull out a random card, I'd have them hold on to it or whatever, and then I'd say, okay, same thing. And I do like this. I have a video on this too, like what I call like jazz mentalism. So you're kind of like you were talking about, you're kind of jazzing. So what I
Yeah.
would usually do is I'd force the suit in a very similar way. I do the red card, black card, dump one out, and I do the tombola idea to get the suit. But then for the value, I would literally steer them to it. So what I would say is I would pick the person who I think is the most likely to name seven. And I say, okay, now does anyone have a good sense of the value? And then I just point at the person that I want to pick, right? And I say, if actually first what I would say is I'd say, now I've been doing this for a long time. Even if we just go off probability, right? There's pictures and number cards. Most likely it's a number card, but I don't know. And I just say that, and they would always only say number cards, right? It's almost like I'm telling them to pick a number card, but I'm not. So I say, just our probability is most likely a number card. So we need one of those. So does anyone have a good feeling of the value? How about you? If you were to name a value, what would you say? Well, a lot of the time they'd say seven. If they didn't, then
Right.
instantly I'd go to someone else. So if you were to name one, what would you say? Four, and you, five, and you, nine, and you. and I'm literally going around to everyone until someone says 7, right? Because
Yeah,
no one's going to say
Peter
number someone else
Turner
has said.
has some work on how that word value affects people psychologically, which is pretty interesting. Yeah.
Totally. And what was interesting and what the most amazing part of it was for me is once someone said 7. So usually in my experience, it would, if they didn't say it right away, within 3 or 4 people, someone would say 7. And if they didn't, I had other ways, but usually in that range, someone would have said 7. And then I pause and I'd be like, okay, you've all said a bunch of different values. We need to figure it out. And I say, does anyone feel really confident? How about you? Do you feel really confident about the value you said? And I just point at the person who says 7. I said, do you feel real confident about the value you said? And they'll give you one of 2 answers. Right away, they'll say, yeah, I do, like, because, they said it. Or they'll kind of hesitate. They'll be like, I don't know. They never say no, though, because they said it. They chose that one. So they're like, I don't. And if they start to hesitate, you say, I mean, it's a really good choice. Do you want to go with that? And you just positive reinforcement. That's a really good choice. I mean, do you want to go with that? And then they always do. I have literally never had them not agree to that. And then you've just literally made all the decisions for them, but they feel like they had the choice. So I used to do that a lot, and it was really like a jazz thing. And then if what was really cool also, and I can't believe that people would feel like it was their choice. Like I feel so guilty doing this kind of stuff. But it's like, so let's say I go, okay, name one, and they go 2, and they say name one, 6, name one, 9, name one, 1, right? And it's like I don't get any 7s. I'm not going to go like to 10 people. I'll do like 4 or 5. If I don't get a 7, then I do like the cheekiest thing ever. I'm literally like, okay, so I'm getting a lot of mid-range values. Like it was like a 6, a 9. We're somewhere in that, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 range, somewhere in there. Does anyone see what I did there? We're somewhere in that 5, 6, 8 range, somewhere. And I just leave out 7, literally begging for someone to say it. So I'd be like, they're like that 5, 6 to 8, somewhere in that range. Does anyone have a really strong feeling about one? Something around there. And now I just kind of reset. Say any feeling, but now I've further narrowed them into the box of a mid-range card.
That's
And the
really
fact that
smart.
I didn't say 7, they almost always, that was the first one they said, right? It's like that 5, 6, 8 range, somewhere in there. Anyone? Yeah, 7, great. Or they'd say maybe 5-ish. Yeah, okay, maybe. How about you? 6? Anyone? 7? Okay. I mean, do you feel really confident about that? And I always just zone in on the 7. You feel really good about that? I got some crazy reactions doing it that way.
I found that 7 is such a strong, gets put up all the time. I have somebody just name 7. And then from there, I just have to force a suit. Like this really cool reveal that I have here, which is 7 of spades.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. So like sometimes I'm just, out and about and, maybe number 2, 1 to 10. A lot of times 7 is already said, and I'll have, you know what? The card you were thinking of has been on my mind this entire time. I can prove it. I take it off. They're like,
Yeah, that's
"What
good.
is that real?"
Yeah.
It looks like the size, so it's pretty cool.
No, that's really good. I like that idea. I haven't seen that before. Where'd you get the stickers?
Oh, I had them custom made. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
I've got plenty. I was actually going to come out with it as a product, but somebody beat me to the chase.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
It's a
somebody
good
had
idea.
something that was really similar. So
Yeah.
I was just like, oh well, I tried. And great minds think alike, I guess. But I'm not going to
Yeah,
try
man, it
to
happens. It
step on
happens.
anybody else's
There's so
toes.
much of that.
Yeah. But yeah, this one came out great, man. I'm gonna have to. I'll send you some. You got
Cool,
some
man.
hats that
Yeah.
are like this. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
have a
works
few
out
from
great.
back in the day. Back when I was younger, I used to wear the flat brims.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I stick them on snapbacks, all that curved up stuff,
Yeah.
baseball caps. Yeah, sometimes I'll stick them on the bottom. Nobody even notice, and
That's
then
a good
just like
idea. Yeah.
pop it up. And a
Yeah.
lot of times they just think, oh, that's just new hat sticker. Nobody's thinking
Yeah.
about that at all.
They never noticed it. Yeah, that's really nice. I like that idea. It's really cool, man.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely have to get with me afterwards. I can send you some.
Let's do it, bro. Yeah, I'm happy to. That's cool. I like that. I like stuff like that. Stuff where, just like always on you or hidden in plain sight type reveals,
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
like another thing. Remember, I said the 3 of hearts are pretty commonly named. So sometimes I'll get the jokers together like this, and I'll just say, "What if I can make that card you thought of, essentially kind of like a force, but not really, appear in between these 2 cards?" I mean, only have two cards. If I can make your card appear in between these two cards, that'd be amazing, right? I just
Mm-hmm.
shake them like this and then spread them out, and I have a little reveal down there.
Mm.
And this is like stuff that is just at chance, to kind of to happen, but it's so common that I'm like, I want to build these things into something that I can actually, use.
A lot of the times, it's like the best sort of reveals are those, or tricks or reactions are those like simple things, right?
Yeah.
That's just like having all these different outs is pretty
Oh,
awesome.
multiple outs are great. Another thing, if you're really trying to force that three, because like you said, people say hearts a lot. One thing I notice is, give me number two, 1 to 10, but don't say seven. Everybody says seven. The second choice is usually three
Yeah,
most of
I
the time.
agree. The second choice is 3 from 1 to 10. I've noticed that. Second
Yeah.
choice is 3. Like when I'm doing the playing card thing, with the picture cards, you noticed how I gave you an opportunity to say the king right off the bat, and obviously, if you would have
Yeah.
said it, I would have jumped on it. I am very particular about who I choose, right? So if I'm trying to force the queen, I always just pick a woman for that step.
I
If I'm
see.
trying to get the jack, I rarely do the king. Like if I had just shown you the jack, that's why I switched. But I find that guys are usually saying the jack. The king
That's
is the
true.
least name. So I
That is so
usually do the
true.
jack. I almost
Yeah.
always do the jack of hearts. Just it's my favorite card. It's easy to remember. I got the tattoo of it and other things there. So two of hearts, nice.
That's right. That's mine, baby.
I like it, man. Yeah, that's a killer thing. I love doing that. Like I have a whole. I don't know if you've ever seen my ACAN that I do. The ACAN I released like last year or something, where it's I do the I have the full reveal printed. So I have Jack of Hearts and then the number
Nice.
30 written there,
Oh
and
shit, that's cool.
yeah, and people often like they see me do that ACAN. So the effect is basically someone thinks of a number, genuinely thought of. They don't write it down. They don't say it out loud, and then someone else. Then together we create a card as a group. Hint, hint. And then someone's been holding onto a deck the whole time. They deal down to the number. At the number is the card, and then they turn over the deck, and every single card is blank except for the card that they picked. And then I
Oh, that's
reveal
cool.
that. And I
I
reveal that I
remember.
had it tattooed the whole time. So obviously, from a method perspective, you can have an idea that everything is, obviously predetermined, and that's what makes it so amazing. And I think what's so unique is everyone is tracing like the any card, the any number, and genuinely, like this is my closer. Like I close most of my shows with this trick because it's just so powerful, and it allows you to what it allows you to do is, people always say, oh, well, you have to force the card, then the number can be a free choice. Well, you have to,
Right.
make the number a free choice, then force the card. But I was like, what if you just force both? But if you do it in the right way, and the way that I do it is just
I
so
agree.
fair, so
Yeah.
free, it genuinely feels totally free. Now that I know what the end is going to be, I can do anything, right? I can do the craziest reveals. I can have a big, if I'm on stage, a big banner drop down with the card and the number written on it that's been there the whole time. I can, I once did a performance at a school, and I literally mailed them a deck and an envelope a month before my performance, and I told them to put it up in the classrooms I was going to be performing at.
That's
And they
cool.
had it there the
Yeah.
whole month. And then I closed the last trick. I had the deck I'd been performing with, and so the force card was the Jack of Hearts. So I put it at the bottom of the deck. And I went through the number procedure. I had someone think of a number, do some multiplication in their head, make a completely random number, then they're on a number. And then I say, okay, now we need to create a card. I go through the process for the card. We end up on the Jack of Hearts. And I say, now how crazy would it be if your card was at the number he's thinking of in this deck? I say, for the first time, what's the number you're thinking of? He says 30. I say, how crazy would it be if the Jack of Hearts was at number 30? And I'm holding it like this, so the kids all start laughing because they're like, impossible. I'm like, why? And because obviously the Jack's there. I'm like, oh no, I didn't say this deck. And then I pointed to the deck that was like at the front of their classroom for the last month. He
That
walks
is
over.
such a good idea.
I don't touch it. He opens it, deals down. and it was there. And even I took it a step further for that performance, where at the 30th position, instead of putting the jack, I put a billet that said the word envelope on it. And I had sent them a deck and an envelope. So they deal down, 30th position is a one billet. It says envelope. They go over to the envelope, tear it open, dump it out, and that's where the jack of hearts was, with the number 30 written on the back of it. So it was like
That's
a
crazy.
crazy, like, multi-level prediction. So, and that's why I love that effect. I came out with it on my website about a year ago. It's been pretty popular, and it's so sick. Like, it's, to me, it's the best ACAN. Of course, I'm going to say that, but it's just like I think, ACAN, it's not always that exciting, but when you can have an ending of literally limitless possibilities, like literally limitless. You're having a birthday party. Imagine I don't know, I remember, like, when I was younger, I had this friend. I don't know if this is a thing that people do or is just them. I'd never seen it before, but she would take, like, wax paper and put, like, I think it was like loonies and toonies, and, like, cover them, because obviously you don't want to put that in the cake, but so she'd cover it so it was all sealed, and she'd put them in the cake batter and then bake the cake. So the kids, I remember, we were so excited. We'd get our slice, and we'd find we'd all get a little coin, and we get a little bit of money. And I thought about that. I'm like, what if you, like, did that with a playing card, and you had the card, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking
That's
on
a
my
good
feet,
idea.
like,
Yeah.
you have a birthday cake, and the birthday person, they cut into it, and the jack of hearts is in there with the number 30, or whatever card and number you want to force. Like, there's just so unlimited possibilities when you know the end result of the routine,
Yeah.
right?
Now,
So
I think possibly my two favorite ACANs. One, I don't know who actually came up with this, but it's essentially um, the way I play on it is I ask someone to name any random card, and I kind of use, that card's position in the deck as like, okay, you see the card there, that's the card that you wanted. I want you to just estimate how many cards down this is without counting or anything like that. I then perform a pass, get a top palm, and I say, go ahead, take the deck back, and I want you to estimate and just lay down the cards to whatever number you're thinking of. They stop, and then I replace the cards, square everything up, and say, uh, the number you were thinking of, flip it over. Obviously, it's going to be their card, but that's a sleight of hand heavy, more sleight of
that's
hand
good. I think
heavy version.
that's that sounds like something Ben Earl put out. I
Van
think.
Earl, that's right. Unreal Card Magic, right?
I think so.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty similar, yeah. Um, if not the same, just a little bit different premise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
No,
and then
totally.
obviously Aussie wins ACAN is pretty cool. I like it. It can be a little difficult, a little mentally challenging, but besides that, I've been getting into a lot of stack work and stuff like that recently too.
Good. Yeah. I don't do any
Which
stack work,
was rolling.
actually.
I was about to roll into this next question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about stack work?
Um, I don't do it. I'm not a huge fan. I think that it is the stuff you can do is pretty cool, but I genuinely have never found an effect, and I've done my fair amount of research, and I don't think that there's an effect that I could not achieve without a stack using what I know with my slights. And people are going to say, well, oh, it's not as clean. We're performing for, like, what, it depends. Like, you really care about performing for magicians? I don't, right? Like, that's where it's like, what do you, for me, it doesn't make a difference with regular people. I can make it feel just as clean to them. I think the cull has been one thing that has allowed me to really become kind of proficient in finding other ways to do stacked deck tricks, because like I can cull the whole deck now, like, really well. Like, that's one thing that I really spend a lot of time on, and, like, I'd say my cull's pretty solid, and that's just unlocked so many possibilities for, like, I mean, other tricks, like my triumph that I do is insane. The whole, everyone shuffles, and it's genuinely mixed, and it's like really fun stuff to do. But from stack deck, it's like there's just never been a need for me. And then, like, I'm such a minimalist. I love that organic nature of being able to just chuck the cards. Like, oh, you want to shuffle? Okay, fine, go ahead. Never have to worry about someone wanting to shuffle. I can, you know, hand out the cards, throw them around, make everything happen in their hands. I don't have to worry about my deck being in order. I can go anytime, anywhere with any deck. Like that's just something that I really value because I can pack light, be ready to go, and it fits with the stuff that I do. And I think you know, like even and that's one of the things like again, I just have come up with different things to solve different problems in different ways. Like one of the things I think that I can see a lot of value in a stack deck is locating a named card quickly, right?
Right.
So like let's obviously if you have a marked deck, but I also don't use a lot of marked decks, though I do think they are great. Literally the reason I don't use them is just I perform so much. I'm going through so many decks. I just prefer to just buy bricks of bikes. It's a cheaper option. It's good. I don't feel like buying marked cards every time, and but I
I
think
have
that's a
I have like probably too many. I,
yeah.
I collect marked cards and I've got bricks of marked cards, and there are some affordable options out there. Um,
I've heard the
Penguin
penguin ones are cheap,
Magics,
right?
Penguin Magics. If you buy a brick, you can get them $5 a pop. Also, Joshua J's Particle Pack is another marked deck using the mandolin back that can be purchased at $5 a pop, I believe, as well.
Yeah. No, I mean it's
So
not really about like the money or anything. It's more just like I don't know, man. I don't. None of my tricks really rely on marked decks.
Oh
There's
no,
only
no, for
one.
for sure. I feel like
It's like the
when it
safety
comes to
net thing,
mark
right?
decks is a safety net. Yeah, like it allows for more possibilities without. I mean, I think you should learn to do everything possible with a regular
Sure.
deck of cards, and then you have this extra tool. One of the ways I think Joshua J said it that I found um, really interesting, and I like the way he put it is, why go to a gunfight with a knife?
Yeah.
Um, I feel the same thing as like card magic in general is a stake, and then you have your sides, right? The sides will be the mark deck, sides will be stacks, sides will be partial setups or whatever it is that you got. I like to have them there. I like to play with them, but like you said, you need to be able to do everything with a regular deck of cards. It's very important.
Yeah, I agree.
Your
You know what?
peaks, glimpses, all that stuff to know. You got to know that stuff.
I'm not like I don't really have a too strong of an opinion on stack work in terms of like I'm not someone who says like, "Oh, like I don't think it's worth it if you want to do it." For me, I don't think it's worth it. Like and maybe like you're right. You're right. Why bring a knife to a gunfight? But I mean, if yeah, if it's tricky. It's tough. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I'm still I like because I feel like when I talk about it, people are gonna feel like I'm saying that it's like a waste of time, but I'm
No,
not.
I get what you're saying for sure because it literally took me over 2 years to actually memorize. And I've tried everything. I finally found the combination of things that actually work to help me memorize. Um, But that being said, now I'm starting to get into it. It's really interesting. I'm learning a lot of great false cuts, false shuffles. So I think there's value in it.
Mm,
It's just, do you want to spend your time doing that versus learning something else that could potentially help you? And anything that's impromptu, I'd say learn first over anything else,
hmm
for
Yeah, because
sure.
you want to be able to perform in any situation, right? You don't want to be like,
Exactly. Yeah,
oh,
I agree.
you're a card magician. Show me a trick, and then you're like, well, it's not in
What do
stack. They
I
hand
do?
you a
I,
deck, and you're like, okay,
and
well, no, I
listen,
can't right now. And you know,
I think that is one of the worst things that people run into is you have a lot of people that practice all these sleights and all these moves, but then you say, "Hey, show me something," and they can't think of anything.
mm. I am a big believer in again. This ties into like the preparation part of it. Take some notes, come up with your repertoire. It doesn't need to be any more than a dozen tricks or less. Like find your thousand timers, the one that you really love, that you're really happy with, you're really confident with, and just iron those out, make them really strong, work those in and then structure those into, so let's say you have 12 tricks. 12 is a great number to work with, because I think 3-phase routines are, like, everyone should create some 3-phase routines. So what you do, you have 12 tricks. You got three-phase routines, so that's 4 routines. So take 4 tricks, take your 4 best tricks from those 12, put them in your closer category. Take the 4 best opener style tricks, so stuff that's quick, stuff that you're very confident with, that you can establish that credibility, stuff that's easy enough. Put those as the openers, and then sprinkle the other things in the middle, and then just take one thing from each category that kind of flows together, that works well. Maybe there's a way you can tie them in and make 3-phase routines. So take an opener, take a closer, take a middle piece, and then a closer, right? And just add all those things in. You do 4 3x4. You have 4 3-phase routines that start to rehearse those. Get those so you're really solid, and you'll never wonder what to perform again. Someone asks to see something, you do one of your openers for one of your 3-phase routines. If that's all they want to see, you're done. But most of the time, they'll want to see some more stuff, and you just do the 3-phase routine. You finish it up. They want to see another one. You go into another 3-phase routine, right?
I like that. All right.
Yeah.
Last question I want to ask you.
Do it.
Before we wrap it up, I do got to get going here in a little bit.
No worries.
How do you feel about self-working magic? I feel like there are some self-working magic tricks, or nearly self-working semi-automatic tricks, that are completely amazing, and they do deserve a place in people's repertoire.
Totally. I have no problem with self-workers. I think they're amazing openers often, because they allow you to focus on the performance. And so one, I think, really valuable maybe tip that I can give people is what I call the value exchange, the idea of a value exchange, right? So anything in life is a value exchange, right? Me and you sitting down to talk, there's some kind of value exchange, right? For why you reached out to me and why I accepted to do it. Anything, there's a value exchange. So when we perform our magic, think of it like this. Most people think that the burden is on them as the magician. So they're very afraid to approach people because they think, oh, I'm taking their time. Oh, I'm bothering them. So if you're taking, they feel like, well, I got to provide all this value, right? But actually, the dynamic is really flipped. And once you perform, you'll realize that it's not the people giving you their time. You are giving them an incredible gift
Experience.
that they are going to, like, you're going to probably make their day, their week, their month. So first of all, you need to flip that in your head. But I will say, there is a moment where it is you taking their time, and you have to flip that value exchange. And that moment happens right after the climax of your first trick. For most people. Some people, well, maybe 50-50, maybe not most, but there's some people who, the second you say, I'm going to show you a magic trick, they're into it right away, and you already have the value exchange. You are the one providing the value. They owe you, in a sense, right? They should, if you want to say, they could pay you, but you're not. You're doing it for free, but they owe you. Like, you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart for them. You're not getting anything. You are giving them the value. But there are some people who, yeah, maybe they're busy. They're not really, I don't really want to see the magic, but they're still open to it. And in those 50% of situations, you're not going to win those people over until that climax of your first routine, which is why openers are so important. Because the second you show that, no, I'm a legit magician, I'm not just your uncle showing some card tricks, I'm do some really incredible stuff, that value exchange flips, and now you have the power, right? Once you establish your credibility. So a lot of people get nervous. Shaky hands are a real big thing. I definitely used to get that back in the day. And obviously that makes it hard to do what we do when your hands are shaking. So self-workers is great to get through that value exchange shift, because once it shifts, well, then the onus is no longer on you. You don't owe them anything. You have the leverage in the situation. And so hopefully your nerves should ease a little bit. And so that's why the opener is so important. So that's why I think, using self-working magic in those moments, you don't have to use your hands. It's all more or less in your
Performance,
control
right?
of the performance, right?
Right. All right, man. That is awesome, bro. Listen, I have so many more questions I could ask you. It's already been over 2 hours. Unfortunately, I do got to get going, but I am very willing and open to do another one of these sometime in the future if you'd like to.
Let me know, man. I'm always happy to do stuff like this. So anytime, man. It was a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for
My
having
brother,
me.
I really appreciate you coming on, bro.
I'm happy to
It
be
was
here,
an
man.
honor meeting you, man.
Yeah, you too, man. It was a real pleasure. Stay in touch, and if you need anything, man, just let me know. And anyone who watches this, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Brandon, for having me. And subscribe to the channel. If you're not, subscribe to Brandon's channel. Subscribe over on my channel, and let's
Yes,
continue
please
to
do.
do this thing,
You're gonna
man.
learn some amazing magic over there. That's for sure. Subscribe to him.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, definitely
Likewise.
gonna stay in touch. If you give me, somewhere I can send those stickers to, I'll send them to you.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Yeah, I'll send you the address, man. Yeah, I would
and
appreciate that.
definitely in the future, going to be sending you some stuff, maybe bounce some ideas off you because you have a brilliant mind when it comes to magic. So stay
Absolutely,
in
man.
touch, please.
Look, you need anything, you let me know. You send it my way. I'm happy to take a look. Happy to help. Whatever you need. You have an idea. You need it road tested. You let me know. I'll go out there and do it. Whatever you need, man.
All right, man. I appreciate that, brother.
Of
You have a
course.
good one, man.
You too, man. All the best, Brandon. All
Peace
right.
out, everybody. You too, man.
Bye.